Chapter 318. Boom! In the sky, spirit boats cut through the air and flew towards Zenangwan. Below the spirit boat is the territory occupied by Qinyuan sword sect in Izumo. Because of this, the Zhenan army marched all the way without encountering any obstacles. The territory of the Izumo kingdom is vast, although it is not comparable to the territory of the Qinyuan sword sect in the Wuxia, but it is due to the vast sea. In terms of land area, the territory of Qinyuan sword sect in Wuxia is really not as large as that of Izumo kingdom. After all, Izumo kingdom was the sphere of influence of Qinyuan sword sect thousands of years ago. To be able to support such a huge sect, the territory of the Izumo kingdom is so vast one can imagine it. In the huge fleet of spirit boats, in the main cabin of the Malong, Chen Daoxian sat cross-legged. He was the only one in the huge cabin, and not far away, the green smoke filled the air, and the room was full of fragrance. This is the fragrance of concentration, which has the effect of tranquility and concentration. Of course, this is for low-level monks. For a real person like Chen Daoxian, concentrating incense is just a kind of spice that makes people feel relaxed and happy, and it has almost no concentrating effect. Call! Suddenly, Chen Daoxian, who was sitting cross-legged on the futon, opened his eyes. The electric gaze is like substance, making the quiet room suddenly glow. Sure enough, the cultivation of the sedividing chapter is not that simple. Chen Daoxian frowned. Previously, in the dojo of the Huyan Hall master, he heard the other party's explanation of the formation method. Although it did not arouse Chen Daoxian's urge to pick up the refining tool again, it gave him another kind of inspiration. In other words, he pointed out the correct usage of the Stardust Kendo diagram. Stars Kendo map, pay attention to map raising sword raising map. Therefore, the rank of this picture depends not only on the rank of each immortal sword in the picture, but also on the number of immortal swords in this picture. In other words, Chen Daoxian only has 2 Dao laws that he has mastered now, and there are fewer. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think of the image of the giant with a giant axe that he used in the true immortal origin realm to smear the giant with an axe. At that time he also referred to the opponent's move and created his own sword art, which made his strength skyrocket, thus completely establishing the victory of one Xinghai cultivator and the real demon world monster. Chen Daoxian remembered that the strong man holding the giant axe mastered both space and all the laws of the 5 elements at the same time, a total of 6 laws of the Great Tao. Of these 6 avenues, if a cultivator comprehends any of them and reaches the realm of the law, he can become a nascent soul cultivator. And this giant axe 6 kinds of cultivation at the same time. Of course, although Chen Daoxian didn't know what the other party's Tao realm had reached, with the help of the Tao deriving function, he could tell that the giant axe master, who majored in the Tao law, was the space law. As for the Tao of the 5 elements, it can only be regarded as the Tao law of the minor. But even so, Chen Daoxian can clearly perceive that the other party's 5 elements law is much higher than the space law he masters the deepest. That senior didn't have the Stardust Kendo map, a treasure that can quickly improve the realm of the Great Tao, and still comprehended the 6 Great Tao laws, and the deceased true immortal world demon also comprehended the 4 Great Tao laws. Chen Daoxian said silently, so these true immortal cultivators don't focus on cultivating one kind of Tao. Could it be that there are many Tao rules in practice? Is there any benefit? Think for a moment. Chen Daoxian got nothing. On the road of comprehending the Tao law, he can only be regarded as a toddler. So far, he has only promoted the space sword intent to the law realm. As for the Siyu sword intent, it can't even be called a law. In the eyes of others with such a low-level Tao state, to guess the Tao realized by the true immortals is undoubtedly a bit lofty. But Chen Daoxian didn't think so. Although the true immortal is strong, for him, he is only a forerunner on the road of seeking the way. Their experience and direction can serve as a good reference for later generations. The giant axe master has comprehended the 6 Tao laws, and there are also 4 Tao laws in the source world of the fallen true immortal level world demon, proving that the other party has also comprehended the 4 Tao laws. And the inheritance trial accepted by Chen Daoxian, and the Star Kendo map given to him is undoubtedly a pure young immortal artifact that is conducive to cultivating a variety of Tao laws. With all these things, Chen Daoxian had to wonder if the cultivation of the monks would be raised to a certain level, whether there would be a requirement for the number of Tao laws. At present, this speculation is not groundless. Right. And the dead immortal from the upper realm. Chen Daoxian remembered the sea of knowledge of the immortal from the upper realm that he had swam through. Unfortunately, the law of the Tao exists in the sea of Dantian Qi, and he was unable to enter the sea of Dantian Qi of the other party to take a look. The two true immortal level cultivators have both practiced a variety of Tao laws. It seems that the promotion of Tao realm to a higher level will definitely require the number of Tao laws. Chen Daoxian secretly guessed. Regardless of the higher realm of the Tao realm, whether there are requirements for the number of laws, I will first comprehend several Tao laws, and there is nothing wrong with being prepared. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help showing a relaxed look on his face. For others, once they comprehend one more Tao law, they must spend more time and energy to improve the realm of this Tao law. But for Chen Daoxian, who has mastered the treasures of the star kendo map, if he wants to understand more Tao laws, he only needs Krypton gold to solve it. Speak up. His space law can be promoted from the lower part of the law realm to the middle part of the law realm. In addition to the instant sublimation after he broke through the Jindan stage, which allowed him to be promoted to the realm of the Tao, there is also the credit of Chen Daoxian's remaining 40 drops of the power of creation. It is with the help of the 40 drops of the power of good fortune that Chen Daoxian's Chongying sword can be promoted from the 4th order high grade to the 5th grade low grade. Drive the space sword intent and be promoted to space law. Then Chen Daoxian used the epiphany function of the Hongming Enlightenment Daojing to upgrade the space law from the lower part of the law realm to the middle part of the law realm in one fell swoop. Therefore, after the Hui nationality Ji Suhui, a top real person, was suppressed in the palm of his hand. If not, Chen Daoxian could beat Ji Suhui, but he might not be able to kill him only by virtue of the low Tao realm of the law realm. After all, Chen Daoxian's cultivation base is only in the early stage of Jindan, which is much lower than that of Ji Suhui in the later stage of Jindan. In addition, his body training is also lower than Ji Suhui by a big realm. It's really not that simple to keep Ji Suhui, unless Chen Daoxian is willing to use the star kendo map. But this picture is his treasure at the bottom of the box. Using it easily is equivalent to completely exposing one's trump card to the outside world. If the ancestor of the Ji family is impulsive, he will directly bring someone to the Chen family to seek revenge against him. Chen Daoxian couldn't even get his hands out. By then, he would be sitting on the wax. Such things as trump cards will never be used easily until there is a life and death crisis. This is the first lesson that almost all monks learn after stepping into the spiritual path. For low-level monks, all kinds of magic tools, especially the high-level magic talismans they spent a lot of money on, are their trump cards. For high-level cultivators, all kinds of secret techniques for escaping and breaking out desperately are also their trump cards. Along the way, Chen Daoxian naturally also has a whole card. It's just that his trump card changes with the constant changes in his cultivation. During the Zifu period, the soul-determining light and the three-headed and six-armed magical powers he mastered were his trump cards. At the Golden Core stage, although the power of these two magical powers is still impressive, the time he has spent cultivating these two magical powers is too short after all. Unlike the real person of God, who cultivated the soul-defining light to a high realm, just relying on this magical power, he can traverse the sea of stars, making Qinyuan Jianzong feel a headache. You must know that Chen Daoxian has been in contact with cultivation at the age of 6, and it has been less than 50 years. At this time, not only did the cultivation base reach the Golden Core stage, but the Tao realm reached the Law realm. Although he was able to achieve this mainly with the help of the Hongming Enlightenment Classic, Chen Daoxian himself also devoted all his time and energy to it. As for the practice of supernatural powers and secret methods, it is really not enough. Because not all supernatural powers can be practiced by relying on comprehension, and more secret methods and supernatural powers can only be achieved by the double tempering of comprehension and time. For example, the magical power of 3 heads and 6 arms. As a top-level combat-like magical power, the practice of 3 heads and 6 arms to a high level will undoubtedly greatly enhance the cultivator's melee combat strength. But it also requires those who practice it to continuously sacrifice and practice the 3-headed and 6-armed Dharma image. The so-called sacrificial Dharma image is like refining the body, using blood crystals to continuously smelt into the Dharma image with 3 heads and 6 arms. This process is by no means tricky. This is a typical time-consuming and resource-consuming magical power. The Chun family is not short of resources, but Chan Daoxian is short of time. In less than 50 years of cultivation time in total, even if Chan Daoxian smashed all into this magical power, what realm can he elevate it to? The same is true for the divine light. Speaking of which, soul conditioning divine light is just a magical power attached to the divine sea chapter, and its power depends on the range of the divine sea in the sea of consciousness. Chan Daoxian broke through to the Jindan period. The sea of knowledge skyrocketed to a range of more than 2,300 miles, but his sea of divine light was the same as in the Zifu period, only more than 700 miles away. If you want to catch up with the size of the sea of knowledge, you don't know how long it will take, let alone rely on it to expand the scope of the sea of knowledge. Chan Daoxian did not expect that the expansion speed of his sea of consciousness was actually faster than the expansion speed of the sea of divine light. Inside the cabin, Chan Daoxian secretly thought about ways to quickly improve his strength. 2 months ago, the 1-year period mentioned by the hall master of Zhenhai Palace, he kept in mind. Although the owner of Zhenhai Palace did not say it clearly, the other party asked him to go to the sect of the Qingwei Taoist sect in a year, proving that the treasure that could help the 13th uncle purify the soul exists in the Qingwei Taoist sect. Where is Qingwei Taoism? That is a cultivation force of the same level as Qianyuan Jianzong. If Chan Daoxian was the only one to seize treasures in the lair of this kind of power, he would probably only be able to sigh. But the master of Zhenhai Palace said, "Go there and wait for him to see Chan Daoxian's good fortune." This sentence is very interesting. Could it be that Zhenhai Palace is the main force to break into the Qingwei Taoism? Thinking of this, Chan Daoxian's heart skipped a beat. Although he knew that the strength of the Zhenhai Hall's hall master was extremely strong among the nascent soul cultivators, it was a bit too risky to break into the Qingwei Taoist sect alone. Or rather a little stunned. It stands to reason that with the temperament of the Zhenhai Palace hall master, he would never do such a reckless behavior. Chan Daoxian thought about it for a long time but couldn't think of a reason. Just stopped thinking about it. But he knew that 1 year, no, to be precise 10 months later, he was going to wait for Qin Zhan at the location of the sect of the Qingwei Taoist sect. Whether it's to meet the other party or something else, all require Chan Daoxian to be stronger than he is now. Compared with the weakest nascent soul cultivator, his cultivation base in the early stage of Jindan and the Dao realm in the middle part of the Law realm are barely comparable. But the weakest nascent soul cultivator usually does not exist. In other words, Chan Daoxian's strength has only reached the lower limit of the primordial infant cultivator. I am afraid that any true monarch nascent soul will come here, and his strength will be stronger than him. Even if he used the trump card of the star's kendo map, at most he could only compete with the ordinary mid-nascent soul monks. Moreover, using the star's kendo map consumes a lot of mana. Even if there is a treasure such as the White Lotus, Chan Daoxian can't last as long as the other party. In the middle stage of nascent soul, the realm of the avenue does not exceed the middle stage of the Law realm. This is the strongest player Chan Daoxian can deal with after using all his cards. Moreover, this is only his own estimation. After all, he has never fought against a monk of this level. Chan Daoxian didn't dare to brag about whether he could deal with it. 3 heads and 6 arms. Chan Daoxian shook his head. It takes too much time to improve this magical power. 10 months is far from enough. The Divine Sea chapter will not work either. The expansion of the Sea of Divine Light cannot be accomplished overnight. The rest, only the Divine Sea chapter. Chan Daoxian's eyes narrowed, and he finally chose to practice separation of the sea. Chan Daoxian has long understood the secret method of dividing the sea. On the basis of the Sea of Divine Light, it divided the Sea of Divine Light into small seas of divine light, and finally condensed the small seas of divine light into thoughts. Speaking of which, this secret method does not seem to be difficult. Divide the sea of divine light, condense it into thoughts, and finally only need to make the thoughts like diamonds, and then the practice will be successful. The trip to Zhenangguan is about a month away. According to the description of Fenhai chapter, it is not the time to comprehend it, but only the cultivation time. If it goes well, it will be successful in 10 days and a half months. In this way, 1 month is enough. But actually, failed again. Half a month later, Chan Daoxian looked at the seas of divine light separated by him and reunited them, feeling very depressed. The dividing the sea only talks about dividing the sea and condensing the mind, but it does not say how many parts should be divided. Chen Daoxian did not rashly advance, nor was he conservative, and divided the sea of God's light into 10 equal parts at one time. But every time he condensed these small seas of divine light into thoughts, he couldn't control the other seas of divine light, and he let them merge together again. Tried this hundreds of times. Chen Daoxian was also a little irritable. Feeling his anxious mood, Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and calmed down his anxious heart again. He looked at the dazzling sea of divine light in the sea of consciousness, and said to himself, "It seems that it is too aggressive to divide it into 10 parts at one time. If this is the case, then stabilize it to the end." Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian once again controlled the sea of divine light, and slowly divided it. Chapter 319. Consciousness Sea with a radius of more than 2,300 miles. Chen Daoxian was immersed in it, only to feel the vastness. Although it was not comparable to the sea of consciousness of the immortal's remains, it was undoubtedly much larger than the sea of consciousness of his Zifu period. In the center of the sea of consciousness, a planet with a diameter of several hundred miles floats on a sea of light, and that sea of light is the sea of divine light. Now, under the control of Chen Daoxian, the sea of divine light divided into a small sea of light about 1/10 of the area. As soon as this small sea of light was separated from the main body of the sea of light, Chen Daoxian felt that his consciousness was divided into two. This feeling is very magical, as if I was looking at myself from another angle, and it is difficult to describe in words if I don't experience it myself. Of course, to outsiders it is a miraculous distraction. Chen Daoxian, who has practiced 3-headed and 6-armed supernatural powers, has long experienced it, so he is not too surprised. Taking a deep breath, Chen Daoxian stabilized his mind. Next, the most important thing is to condense the mind. Since Chen Daoxian only had one share of the divine sea this time, the burden on his divine soul was much smaller, and the condensed thoughts that used to consume a lot of divine soul did not seem so difficult. Chen Daoxian condensed the divided divine sea into his mind step by step according to the records in the Dividing the Sea exercises. A radius of 210 miles, a radius of 200 miles, a radius of 190 miles. In the Sea of Knowledge, the area of the small divine light sea is getting smaller and smaller, and the divine sea is getting more and more condensed. In the end, the small sea of divine light with a radius of more than 220 miles had transformed into an object the size of an adult fist, dazzling as a diamond, and quietly suspended above the sea of consciousness. Mind! Chen Daoxian's heart was surging when he saw this beautiful crystallization of thoughts in front of him. At this moment, he only felt that his consciousness could easily switch between 1 and 2. He can divide consciousness and merge consciousness. The division and fusion of consciousness is based on one heart. In this chapter, I'm finally getting started. Chen Daoxian looked at the thoughts in the Sea of Knowledge and muttered. Like Shenhai chapter, Divine Sea chapter is also a practice that can be practiced indefinitely. Thoughts are like diamonds. It's just a manifestation of the beginning of thoughts after dividing the sea of divine. There are powerful monks in the upper world, who can reincarnate infinitely just by thinking, to experience the sufferings of different worlds, and to sharpen their own Taoism. Chen Daoxian didn't even dare to think about the thoughts of that realm. Now that his thoughts are just beginning to form, it is no problem to move freely within the range covered by the consciousness, but outside the range covered by the sea of consciousness, the thoughts are like snow meets the scorching sun, and they will melt in an instant. His thoughts could not even cover the range of ecstasy, let alone the reincarnation of his thoughts. However, Chen Daoxian can't care about this now. His thoughts moved, and a picture scroll slowly unfolded in front of him. On the picture scroll, 2 stars, one large and one small, were dotted on the picture scroll, which seemed a little lonely. It was the first treasure he got from the Wan Xinghai inheritance trial, the Xingchen Kendo map. Chen Daoxian looked at the star map in front of him, hesitated for a moment, and then called out the thoughts condensed from the Sea of Knowledge. Although the Sea of Knowledge is called the sea, it is a special existence between the illusory and the real. Objects in the Sea of Consciousness are the same in theory, but after the mind is formed, it can actually be manifested in reality. Its nature seems to be somewhat similar to the Divine Soul Defense magic weapon. which can be transformed between the virtual and the real. Amazing! After sighing with emotion, Chen Daoxian no longer hesitated and stretched out his hand slightly. In the star map, a smaller star flew out instantly, turned into a fairy sword, and appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. Flying snow. Chen Daoxian looked at Fuxia, who had been with him since he set foot on the road of cultivation, and a gentle emotion flashed in his eyes. The next second, the gentleness in his eyes was replaced by decisiveness. I saw him slowly integrating his fist-sized thoughts into the body of Fuxia sword. Since Fuxia sword was integrated with Siyu sword intent, it has itself become a special existence between reality and illusion, and now let the mind merge with it. It has to be said that this is a very bold attempt. If it succeeds, Chen Daoxian will be able to continuously separate his thoughts from the mother sea of the Sea of Light in the future, and then integrate them into the laws of the Tao. In the future, no matter how many Tao laws in the star's kendo map, Chen Daoxian's control of Tao law will not be reduced in the slightest. Not only that, with the precise control of each Tao law with his mind, Chen Daoxian can even arrange a large array with the Tao law, and the power of different Tao laws can be perfectly integrated with the power of the formation. This kind of fusion is completely different from the superficial fusion of the law of the 5 elements driven by the power of the giant axe using the law of space recorded in Chen Daoxian's Sea of Knowledge. Since every Tao law is integrated with Chen Daoxian's every thought, the mutual exclusion of these Tao laws has been weakened. In addition, he used the power of the formation to fuse these Tao laws. Although he couldn't achieve the legendary combination, it was definitely much better than the superficial fusion of the giant axe powerhouse. Although these are just Chen Daoxian's guesses at present, he feels that his guesses are correct. The monks need to rely on their predecessors in their practice, but they cannot rely entirely on their predecessors. The degree of this requires him to carefully grasp. As time passed by little, in the cabin the dazzling thoughts like diamonds slowly merged into the body of Fuxia sword like a stream of water. At the moment when Chen Daoxian's thoughts merged into Fuxia, he suddenly felt that he had 2 bodies, one was his deity, and the other was Fuxia. And what's even more amazing is that these 2 bodies Chen Daoxian feel the same as his own body. This feeling is not even the same as the clone. After his black-robed avatar is separated from the soul, if he does not take the initiative to contact him, the black-robed avatar is basically no different from an independent person. But this flying snow sword occupied half of his consciousness. When his mind moved, Chen Daoxian's consciousness became one again, and when his mind moved again, his consciousness was divided into 2. Chen Daoxian kept switching like this, and his consciousness was constantly splitting and merging. It's just that compared to the previous division and fusion, this time after his consciousness was divided, he had a body. Instead of floating in the void, he felt more at ease. So, can't I control the flying sword to fly out of the range of my divine sense? Chen Daoxian thought suddenly. The range of his divine consciousness has reached more than 2,300 miles so far. Compared with true monarch Yuanying spiritual consciousness covering thousands of miles, Chen Daoxian's spiritual consciousness is far less powerful. Even some top Jindan real people, the range of divine consciousness is much stronger than him. In the inherent cognition of monks, the shrouded range of spiritual consciousness means the furthest attack distance of monks. For example, Chen Daoxian's divine consciousness covers more than 2,300 miles, so the farthest attack distance of his flying sword is more than 2,300 miles. Out of this range, Fuxia can only return without success. But now that he has integrated his thoughts into Fuxia sword, and Fuxia sword has become his consciousness clone, the situation is different. He felt that he could control the flying snow sword to fly out of the range covered by his consciousness. And thanks to the protection of the flying snow sword, his mind will not melt and collapse after it is out of the range of divine consciousness. Sure enough, this road works. Chen Daoxian was overjoyed, so I only need to separate 2 thoughts and integrate them into Fuxia sword and Chongying sword. Wouldn't I be able to control the fusion of these 2 laws into one? No, Siyu Jiani has not yet reached the law realm, which is a problem. Chen Daoxian frowned again. He looked in the direction of Zhenangguan. Never before had he had such an urgent need for the power of creation. Thinking too much is useless. Let's first integrate your thoughts into Siyu sword intent and space law respectively. Being able to use these 2 sword intents and laws at the same time, I can use them to perform the two sword formations, so that the attack power will skyrocket. Chun Daoxuan's eyes were bright. Zenangwen. Compared with decades ago, Zenangwen, which is now in the hands of the Qingwei Taoist faction, has changed a lot. The first change. In order to consolidate the defense line of Zhenan Pass and prevent Qianyuan Jianzong from taking this pass from them, the Qingwei Taoist faction built two new immortal cities outside Zhenan Pass, forming a corner with the original Zhenan Pass. Trend. The second change is the cultivation of the defenders of the city. Originally, Zhenan Pass was only the smallest of all immortal passes in Qianyuan Jianzong, so only a number of Jindan cultivators were sent to sit here. Later, because Yi Wudao was jealous of his military exploits, he used his background identity to squeeze out other Jindan real people, and he only enjoyed this level. Now, after the Xianqing Dao League won this pass, they specially dispatched the nascent soul cultivator to sit here. From the perspective of the area, it would be too much of a problem to send true monarch Yuaning to sit in the southern gate of Amir Town, but because the Xianqing Dao League regards this gate as an important breakthrough for counterattacking the Qianyuan sword sect. With extra attention, it makes sense to send a true monarch nascent soul to sit here. Zenangwen in a majestic fairy palace. A monk with loose black hair sat cross-legged on a futon. This cultivator has a stern face, and his whole body exudes an aura that no strangers should enter. In addition, he ranks among all the cultivators in the town of Nanguan. If there is no important matter, no one dares to disturb the true monarch. This person was the true monarch Minghuang, who was dispatched by the Qingwei Taoist sect to sit in the town of Nanguan. Sudden, true monarch Minghuang, who was sitting in meditation, opened his eyes and sighed. There are less than 40 years left, and the 100 years will expire. It's a pity that although my cultivation level has advanced to the late nascent soul, I still haven't been able to reach the 9th floor of nascent soul, and the realm of the great Tao and the physical body are also a little worse, so I am not qualified to fight for Taishan Shui. Yuanshan Dao Jun Wan Saishon, it's a pity. True monarch Minghuang kept shaking his head. Not long ago, when he learned that the Tai immortal pond in the sect was about to give birth to the Taishan Shui, he almost immediately returned to the sect with excitement. But just when he was about to leave Zenangwen and prepare to return to the sect master of the Qingwei Taoist sect personally summoned him, and strictly ordered the guards guarding the important places in various cities not to return to the sect, and those who violated it were severely punished. Normally, in the face of the temptation to break through to the Yuanshan stage, even if they disobeyed the order of the suzerain, these Yuanying true monarchs would not care. But true monarch Minghuang, as a late nascent soul monk, knew more of the inside story than ordinary true monarchs in the sect. It is not an easy task to take out a divine object like Tai Shan Shui from the Tai immortal pond. The correct method of fetching water is known only to the past suzerains of the Qingwei Taoist sect. If outsiders want to forcibly seize it, they will only make the unformed Tai divine water melt in the fairy pond. In addition, considering that his own cultivation has not reached the 9th level of nascent soul, true monarch Minghuang also put out his thoughts of fighting for Taishan Shui. But give up and give up. Whenever he thinks of this matter, true monarch Minghuang is still so heartbroken that he can't breathe. Never before has he been so close to Yuanshan Daojun. True monarch Minghuang knew that with his talent, without relying on foreign objects, the possibility of breaking through to the primordial spirit stage was very small. There are many sects around the Xianqing Dao League, and there are hundreds of Yuanying Xinjuan, but there is not one Yuanshan Daojun. From this we can see how difficult it is to break through from the nascent soul stage to the Yuanshan stage. Just as his heart was aching, true monarch Minghuang frowned and said displeasedly, "Didn't I say that if there is no major event, I should not disturb my practice? Sir, I." Outside the door, a Jindan real person trembled, some speechless. Recently, Zhenjin's temper has been very bad, but everyone doesn't know the reason, so they can only live with anxiety every day. Fortunately, the integrity of true monarch Minghuang is acceptable, and he did not anger the subordinates of Zenangwen because he could not get Taishan Shui. "Come in." True monarch Minghuang waved his hand helplessly. "Yes." Outside the door, Jindan Junren took a deep breath, pushed the door and walked into the immortal palace. Along the way, this real Jindan kept his head down, not daring to look up at true monarch Minghuang. "What's the matter?" Hearing Zhenjin's question, Zhenren Jindan didn't dare to hide it, and immediately replied. Reporting to Zhengjuan, our Anzi reported that there is an army of monks, starting from Linwu Xiancheng, and heading for the south pass of my town, the army of Linwu Xiancheng. The true monarch Minghuang was instantly shocked, and immediately stood up from the futon. Seeing that the real monarch was so excited, the Jindan real person who came to report was almost terrified. He hurriedly said, "It's not from Linwu City, it's a Cangzhou cultivator from Wangxinghai." Hearing this, true monarch Minghuang, who felt that he had lost his temper, had a cold face and said solemnly, "Next time you speak, remember to finish it once." Yes, the head of this Jindan real person is lower. Seeing the trembling appearance of this subordinate in front of him, true monarch Minghuang waved his hand and said in a slightly desolate tone, "You killed the gang of bereaved dogs in Cangzhou back then, right?" Hearing true monarch Minghuang mentioning his most proud record, the Jindan real person straightened his body, raised his head in front of true monarch Minghuang for the first time and said, "True monarch Bing, it is the disciple who led the army to break through this place. Xingguan." "Well done," true monarch Minghuang nodded. "Your current cultivation base has reached the peak of Jindan, and the realm of the avenue is about to touch the threshold of the realm of law. With the credits you have accumulated over the years, you can exchange the resources from the sect to break through to the Yuaning stage. Already." Looking at the excited Jindan Zhenren in front of him, Minghuang Zhenjuan continued, "It's just that there is a major event happening in the sect recently. If you want to return to the sect, I am afraid you have to wait a little longer." Despite being excited, the Jindan real person still showed a righteous and awe-inspiring look, and hurriedly said, "The disciple is not in a hurry, the disciple is willing to guard the gate for the sect." "Okay, you don't have to show your loyalty in front of this seat." True monarch Minghuang paused. "Repel the Cangzhou cultivators, don't let them disturb my retreat. When you return to the sect, this seat will personally apply for you." Hear this. Jindan Zhenren was even more excited. He hurriedly handed over his hands, and said in a trembling voice, "Thank you Zhengjuan for cultivation." Chapter 320. Zenangguan is ahead. On the spirit boat, Zhou Mubai pointed to a city gate at the end of his field of vision. Compared with Linwu Xiancheng, Zhennan Pass is undoubtedly much smaller, but even so it is far from being comparable to Xiongguan, a mortal city. It seems that the whereabouts of the Zhennan army have long been known, and the Zhennan Xiancheng has long been wrapped by the defense formation. Through the formation, Chan Daoxian and Zhou Mubai saw the late Jindan cultivator standing on the top of the city. "It's him." Zhou Mubai's face condensed slightly when he saw the real Jindan on the top of the city, and he clearly recognized the other party. "Who?" Chan Daoxian turned his head and looked at him curiously. The real Yinzhou was the Zhennan Pass that he led his army to break through back then. "I didn't expect that in less than 100 years, his cultivation would be more advanced." Zhou Mubai was not a Jindan cultivator, so he could only vaguely sense that the real Yin Vulture was not an early Jindan cultivator. Zhou Mubai couldn't see the opponent's cultivation base. Chan Daoxian, as a Jindan cultivator, could recognize the opponent's cultivation base at a glance. This immortal Yin Vulture was a late-stage cultivator of Jindan at the 9th level of Jindan, and if he was not wrong, this person might not be far away from the nascent soul stage. Because in him, Chan Daoxian even faintly felt the charm of the law realm. Obviously, even if the person's Dao realm did not reach the law realm, he also touched the threshold of the law realm. Coupled with this person's cultivation base, it can be judged that the other party is only one step away from the nascent soul stage. If this cultivation base and realm are concerned, Chan Daoxian estimates that the opponent's strength may not be much weaker than Ji Suhui, who was killed by him. Chan Daoxian nodded. This person must have been vigorously cultivated by the Xianqing Dao League to capture Zhennan Pass. It is not surprising that he has practiced from the early stage of Jindan to the later stage of Jindan for decades. Hearing that immortal Yinzhou was already at the late stage of Jindan cultivation, Zhou Mubai was slightly startled, and immediately thought of the strength of the person beside him, and his heart was relieved again. After all, with Chan Daoxian's record, as long as the Yuaning cultivator didn't come in person, the ordinary Jindan real person, I am afraid that few can stop him. Ji Suhui is already the top existence among Jindan real people, and he has not been suppressed by Chan Daoxian. Zhou Mubai couldn't understand Chen Daoxuan's current strength. But one thing he knew very well, as long as Chen Daoxian was in the Chen family for one day, the Zhou family would never be able to compete with the Chen family. Chen Daoxian was the one who Zhou Mubai looked at with his own eyes. From being far inferior to him, he was far stronger than him now. In terms of shock, no one can compare to him, Zhou Mubai. In the eyes of outsiders, Chen Daoxian is just a newly rising genius monk in Songzhou, a top-notch real person with infinite potential. Only Zhou Mubai knew it. It is a terrifying thing for a person who has practiced for less than 50 years to grow from a weak chi-refining cultivator to a top real person who can rival the realm of the true monarch dollar. Compared with Chen Daoxuan's strength, Zhou Mubai was more afraid of his potential. In Zhou Mubai's eyes, Chen Daoxian was a complete fan. Whenever he thought that he had figured out Chen Daoxuan's true strength, and he hadn't seen him for a while, the opponent's strength would undergo earth-shaking changes. Fortunately, although the Zhou family and the Chen family are in competition, the two have always been allies on the surface, and the two sides have never torn apart their faces in formal occasions. Fight without breaking. This was Zhou Mubai's opinion that the patriarch made the most correct decision. Thinking of this, Zhou Mubai was 7-pointed in sincerity, and boasted 3-pointedly, with Brother Chen here, the mere Inzhou Zhenren will be no problem. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian glanced at the other party in surprise. He didn't expect that a proud person like Zhou Mubai would be able to say things that flatter others. But soon he thought that maybe Zhou Mubai was not a flattering person by nature, but was born in the Zhou family, especially as the next patriarch of the Zhou family. Some things, even if he doesn't like them, have to be done. To a certain extent, Chen Daoxian is very similar to Zhou Mubai, and he is also a proud person. To this day, no matter how downhearted he is, he has never uttered words to flatter others. From this point of view, it is also unqualified for him to be the patriarch of the Chen family. But fortunately, this is the world of immortals. In the world of immortality, a monk's disposition is indifferent, cruel or weird, and it does not prevent him from becoming the leader of a family or sect, as long as he has extraordinary strength. Seeing that Chen Daoxian did not speak, Zhou Mubai immediately shut up. Both of them are smart people. The last test has basically determined the master-slave status of the Chen family and the Zhou family. From now on, there will only be one voice in Songzhou, and that is the voice of the Chen family. The many families that were attached to the Zhou family at the beginning and wanted to rely on the Zhou family and the Chen family for their wrists, under the strong rise of Chen Daoxian, this so-called alliance fell apart in an instant. Although with the unification and integration of the Chen family in Songzhou, the division of interests of each family in Songzhou has not yet been agreed, but one thing is basically certain in everyone's heart. That is, the Chen family will become the dominant family in Songzhou, just like the Ji family and Zhang family in Jingzhou and Taizhou. All other families will depend on the Chen family to survive. The chaos in Songzhou since the Gaju rebellion more than 400 years ago will be completely eradicated. The battle to regain Zhenengguan this time was not only to gain qualifications for Fairy Qiyao, but also to establish the dominance of the Chen family in Songzhou. For this reason, the Chen family can be said to be the best of the best. Not only did Chen Daoxian personally go to the battlefield, but also 9 swordsmen from the Zifu period represented by Chen Fusheng. Just when the two were silent, Fairy Qiyao's voice came from Chen Daoxuan's ear. "Brother Zhou, young sect master is looking for me, I'll go over there." Hearing this, Zhou Mubai hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Brother Chen, please." Chen Daoxian nodded, then blurred and disappeared in front of Zhou Mubai. Seeing Chen Daoxian teleport away, Zhou Mubai couldn't help sighing. With Chen Daoxuan's identity, strength, and potential, the gap between the two is destined to become larger and larger. Now he can shamelessly call Chen Daoxian Brother Chen. Maybe in a few years he can only be called a true monarch. But the world of immortality is so realistic and cruel. There are many examples of today's fellow Taoists becoming seniors in the future. Zhou Mubai was not too emotional. He and Chen Daoxian didn't have a mentor, and they didn't have any in-laws. It didn't seem that hard to accept the other person's predecessor. Chen Daoxian didn't know Zhou Mubai's thoughts. Now, he has gathered again with the 7 Jindin real people headed by Fairy Qiyao. Chen Zhenren. List. Same as last time, seeing Chen Daoxian, All the cultivators enthusiastically and actively bowed their hands to him, and Chen Daoxian returned the salute one by one. Then he looked at Fairy Qi Yao, who frowned, and asked, "The commander and you frowned, but what's the trouble, herd?" Fairy Qi Yao stretched out her plain white finger, pointed to Zenangwen below the immortal boat, and said, "Look at General Chen." Chen Daoxian looked in the direction of Qi Yao's finger. Just like the scene I saw before, a formation completely shrouded Zenangwen. But as the head coach of Jinan Army and the main person in charge of recovering Zenangwen, Fairy Qi Yao knew more comprehensive information than Chen Daoxian. Zenangwen's original defense formation was a fifth-order formation, but now it has become a sixth-order formation. Fairy Qi Yao said worriedly. Sixth-order formation? Chen Daoxian himself is only a fourth-order formation mage. He just saw that the formation in front of him is extraordinary, but he did not expect it to be the same as the formation of the main dojo of the Huyan Temple. He frowned. The sixth-order formation, the General Jindan cultivator, shouldn't be able to arrange it, herd. Before Fairy Qi Yao spoke, another Jindan real person in the crowd took the initiative and said, "Chen Jinren doesn't know anything. The sixth-order formation master is extremely rare in Jindan real person, even Yuanying Jinjuan. The way of the formation starting from the third level becomes extremely difficult. The breakthrough from the fourth rank to the fifth rank, I don't know how many monks are trapped. As for the sixth rank array master, as far as I know, there are not many in the entire Wangxinghai." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help feeling like he had met a bosom friend. His formation method, since breaking through to the fourth level, even with the help of the epiphany function of the Hongmeng Enlightenment scripture, it is difficult to continue to improve. At the beginning, Chen Daoxian attributed it to his own lack of cultivation, but after breaking through to the Purple Palace period, he still found that the speed of progress in the formation has not improved much. It was not until the last time that Hall Master Huyen told him the key to the way of formation, Chen Daoxian knew that the way of formation required cultivators' understanding on the one hand, and learning from the directors of various schools was the most important thing. In other words, if you want to improve the way of formation, you need to read, learn, and think more, and remember not to work behind closed doors. The so-called multi-seeing is the multi-contact array inheritance. There are various formation diagrams and various formation theories in the inheritance of these formations. With this knowledge, Chen Daoxian's formation attainments can make breakthroughs. A highly accomplished array mage must have a large number of array arrangements stored in his mind. A powerful array mage may not be very strong in battle, but if he is given the opportunity to set up a large array, with the help of the power of heaven and earth, the opponent can even easily cut the enemy by leaps and bounds. This is the case at the moment. The enemy troops in Zenangwen were standing in line, and even if they had an absolute strength advantage, it would be difficult to break the tortoise shell. Chen Daoxian thought for a while and said, "What if a weapon of war is used?" Fairy Qi Yao shook her head. "The defensive power of the sixth-order formation is amazing. The war immortal boat we carry can only condense a blow equivalent to the cultivator of the nascent soul, and cannot break the sixth-order defensive formation at all. Even if it consumes, we can't consume the sixth-order defense formation with spiritual veins as the support." Speaking of this, everyone frowned even more. Compared with Qi Yao, Chen Daoxian was in a worse mood. Not to mention that it can't consume the enemy. Even if it takes 3 years and 5 years to break this formation, Chen Daoxian can't afford it. Because he kept in mind the 1-year contract of the Zhenhai Palace Hall Master. Counting the time, there are only 9 months left in the 1-year appointment, plus the time it takes to get to the Qingwei Taoist sect from here. Chen Daoxian can only stay here for half a year at most. After half a year, Chen Daoxian will go to the hinterland of the Qingwei Taoist sect regardless of whether Zenangwen is taken down or not. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian continued. "What if you bypass Zenangwen and attack other areas of Izumo? Bypass Jinan Pass?" Fairy Qi Yao was slightly taken aback. She immediately took out a jade slip, and the next moment light and shadow on the jade slip shot out, and a small map of light and shadow appeared in front of everyone. From the map, the major immortal gates built by Qianyuan Jianzong almost divided the Izumo country into two. Those close to Wanxinghai were all occupied by Qianyuan Sword Sect, and those close to Xianyun continent were still under the control of Xianqing Dao League. It's just the line of defense built by Qianyuan Jianzong, and only Zanangwen fell into the hands of Xianqing Daomeng. Let the entire line of defense have a small breakthrough. As everyone turned their attention to the map, it didn't take a moment for everyone to shake their heads. No, this move is too risky. After crossing the Zhenan Pass, it is the territory controlled by the Xianqing Dao League. When we get there, our army is completely isolated and helpless. Once we are attacked by the enemy back and forth, then we really have no way to go to heaven and no way to enter the ground. Immediately there were objections. Chen Daoxian glanced at the map and knew that his proposal was somewhat unrealistic, so he stopped talking immediately. Fairy Qi Yao's eyes flickered, and she kept thinking about it, but she still rejected Chen Daoxian's bold proposal. She raised her head and looked at everyone. What else do you think? But it doesn't matter. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other in dismay without saying a word. Seeing this, Fairy Qi Yao frowned. She did not expect that the Xianqing Dao League would attach so much importance to Zanangwen and directly set up a sixth-order formation. What made her even more incredible was that there was no mention of such important news in the sect intelligence. This made Fairy Qi Yao think that there was a conspiracy in the recovery of Zanangwen this time. Shaking her head and getting rid of the messy thoughts in her mind, Fairy Qi Yao continued, "Since everyone has no idea, then the commander will directly order." Hearing this, everyone could not help but stand up straight. Fairy Qi Yao nodded. All armies will be stationed in the camp first, and at 90 tomorrow, they will call in front of the gate. Yes. Everyone bowed their hands together. With the order issued, a spirit boat descended. The various armies soon stationed their general camp less than 100 miles away from Zhenan Pass. The distance of 100 miles for the cultivator of the Foundation can be reached in an instant, and for the cultivator of the Zifu, this distance is within the range of his spiritual consciousness, and the flying sword arrives in an instant. Stationing the barracks here is no different from placing the barracks on the enemy's face at Zanangwen. Can be said to be extremely arrogant. Zanangwen city head, Immortal Inzhou, dressed in black spirit armor, looked at the dark Zhangzhou army under the city and sneered. I didn't expect that the Zhangzhou cultivator's courage has grown after not seeing him for decades. It seems that the last killing of this seat was too light, and their courage has not been destroyed. Commander, the enemy is so arrogant. Do you want to let the N general go to test it? Hearing this, Immortal Inzhou shook his head and said, Forget it, after all, they have 8 immortals of Jindan in charge, and they are not weak. If you go there rashly, you may be besieged by the enemy. The person who proposed was only in the middle stage of Jindan, and when he heard that he might be besieged by 8 Jindan cultivators, his aura instantly persuaded him. The next day, it's just dawn. A line of divine consciousness swept across the gate of Zanangwen roughly. The next moment I saw Chen Daoxian dressed in white, holding a sword in the air. The sword pointed directly at the head of Zanangwen city. The tortoises of the Xianqing Dao League dare to come out and fight me? 7017K. Chapter 321. Master. At the head of Zhenan Guanqing, a middle-level Jindan cultivator was wearing a black spirit armor. Seeing Chen Daoxian's arrogant and domineering attitude, he couldn't bear it any longer and bowed to the real Inzhou. This son is so arrogant, let his subordinates take its head. Hearing this, Inzhou squinted his eyes. He carefully sensed that the monk who called the formation outside the city gate was indeed the early stage of Jindan. Seeing this, Master Inzhou was slightly relieved, turned his head to look at the subordinate who asked for the battle, and said, This person's cultivation base is not high, but it does not mean that his strength is weak. You should be careful, don't overturn the boat in the gutter. This commander here for you. Yes, commander. Hearing this, the middle-stage Jindan cultivator looked ecstatic. Like Master Inzhou, he was from the Qingwei Dao school. When Master Inzhou had not taken Zhenan Pass, his cultivation was still higher than that of the other party. But just because the real Inzhou had a bad luck and captured Zhenan Pass, since then the cultivation base has been rising all the way. It only took a few decades to cultivate from a cultivator in the early stage of Jindan to the peak of Jindan. Infancy is only one step away. That is the true monarch of nascent soul with a lifespan of 3,000 years. Every time he thought that Inji Zhenren was going to break through to the nascent soul stage, all kinds of unspeakable emotions flooded into his heart. After all, this reeling vulture was not as good as him back then. Feng Shui turns nothing more than this. Right now, Qianyuan Jianzong's attack on Zenangwen is a good opportunity for him to make achievements. Of course, this middle-stage Jindan cultivator is not a reckless person. After yesterday's observation, he found that although the number of Jindan cultivators in the enemy's camp was large, reaching 8, among the 8 Jindan cultivators, the one with the highest cultivation level was only the middle-stage Jindan cultivator, and there was only one. This means that the strength of the enemy's group of Jindan cultivators is very weak, which is just enough to allow him to show his strength. If he knew that he was facing a top real person who could be listed on the Wan Xinghai Jindan real person list, he would not dare to go out of the city to fight. Zenangwen city head. In a flash of light, the middle-stage Jindan cultivator appeared in front of Chen Daoxian with all his spiritual armor. Seeing this Jindan cultivator in front of him actually wearing a white Taoist robe, with a dashing style, this middle-stage Jindan cultivator couldn't help but sneer in his heart. This son is so underestimated by the enemy, maybe he really has a chance to kill the enemy today. He thought to himself. Chen Daoxian frowned when he saw that he was called out for a long time, but only one middle-level Jindan cultivator came out, the reeling vulture he expected to meet in person, and he took the opportunity to kill the opponent did not appear. If they can remove the real Injiu by surprise, coupled with the war immortal boat they carry and his full strength, it may not be able to break the defense of the 6th order formation of Zenangwen. After all, no matter how strong the formation is, it still needs someone to preside over the operation. Losing Inji Zhenren, a cultivator at the peak of Jindan, the power of the Zenangwen 6th order formation will inevitably drop, and they will have the opportunity to break the formation. But right now, it's really a shrinking turtle. Chen Daoxian cursed secretly. He was sure that the enemy army did not know his record in Wan Xinghai, otherwise, he would never have sent a mid-level Jindan cultivator to confront him. This is not meeting the enemy. This is courting death. In other words, in the eyes of the real Injiu, Chen Daoxian is not worth his shot. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian knew what to do, etc. Seeing that Chen Daoxian didn't even say a word at the scene, he was about to do it when he came up, and the middle-stage Jindan cultivator on the opposite side gave up. He fought this time for the sake of fame and credit. Chen Daoxian's refusal to report his name before the battle formation was very different from his thoughts. From the Qingwei Taoist school. Clang! Before he could finish speaking, a sword light erupted on his black spirit armor, blasting his figure dozens of miles away, directly hitting the defense formation of Zenangwen. Boom! After a while, the roaring sound entered Chen Daoxian's ears. In front, the middle-stage Jindan cultivator wearing black spirit armor felt pain everywhere. He looked at Chen Daoxian in horror. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes, and he said in a trembling voice, "Hai Dao realm." At this moment, Chen Daoxian's whole body is shrouded in an invisible domain, which is the Siyu sword domain at the high level of the Dao domain realm. The sword just now was just a normal outbreak of the Siyu sword region, and Chen Daoxian did not use any special sword techniques to increase the power of the Siyu sword region. It is also thanks to Chen Daoxian's cultivation that is slightly lower than the opponent's, plus the opponent has a 4th order spirit armor body protection. Otherwise, the unexpected sword just now may directly kill the opponent. The middle stage Jindan cultivator lowered his head, looked at the 4th order low-grade spirit armor with a faint crack in his eyes, and felt a little blood in his heart. This 4th order low-grade spirit armor was the most valuable treasure in his body. Now it was almost destroyed by Chen Daoxian's sword. Chen Daoxian slashed the opponent with one sword, held a sword flower in his hand, and nodded secretly. The defense of the 4th order low-grade spirit armor is worn on the body of the Jindan cultivator. If you want to rely on the Siyu sword domain to break it, you need to cut a few more swords. If the opponent is wearing a 4th order high-grade spirit armor, the Siyu sword region might not be able to break his defense. At this moment, Chen Daoxian knew why some cultivators began to study the secrets of soul attack after reaching the golden core stage. Because of the spirit armor, the defense is too perverted. In addition, after the cultivator reached the golden core stage, he began to focus on the cultivation of the body. The powerful body and the 4th order spirit armor made almost every golden core cultivator become an iron lump, which was extremely difficult to kill. Chen Daoxian himself is the same. The 4th order high-grade power spirit armor is almost comparable to the ordinary 5th order low-grade spirit armor in terms of defense. Although his body training is not high, but with this spirit armor bodyguard, Chen Daoxian's defense is definitely among the top few cultivators in the Jindan period. If he can integrate the indestructible true meaning into his flesh in the future, and add the 4th order high-grade power spirit armor to protect his body, he will stand there and let the ordinary Yuanying Xinjuan cultivator attack. It is estimated that the other party will have nothing to do with Chen Daoxian. Jinan Army Barracks. Countless Songzhou cultivators and Qianyuan Jianzong disciples burst into violent cheers when they saw Chen Daoxian slash the enemy general dozens of miles away with one sword. Chen Zhenren is mighty. General Chen is amazing. Invincible real person. Invincible real person. In the military camp, I don't know who took the lead in shouting such a sentence, and the other monks followed and shouted. It didn't take a moment for the invincible real person's name to resound through the sky. Zenangwan city head. The Xianqing Dao League troops stationed here saw that their own Jindan real person could not even stop the enemy general, and their morale was low, and they were even more afraid. As low-level monks, they could not tell how high Chen Daoxian's cultivation was. They only knew that Chen Daoxian, like their leader, was a real Jindan. And in the eyes of the many low-level monks stationed in Zenangwan, Jindan was the top powerhouse in Zenangwan. The low-level monks in Zenangwan did not know the existence of true monarch Minghuang. Although true monarch Minghuang has been in town for decades, he has been cultivating in the depths of the Asgard Palace. On weekdays, in addition to the Jindan cultivator, the people below do not know that Zenangwan still has a Yuanying Xinjuan. In this way, Chen Daoxian's behavior of defeating their main general at will undoubtedly made the low-level monks of the Xianqing Dao League stationed in Zenangwan feel terrified. After all, if the enemy's high-level monks are unstoppable, they will cause a one-sided massacre to their own low-level monks. At that time, who can guarantee that he is not the one who was slaughtered? What a waste! Seeing that the subordinates who took the initiative to ask for battle were defeated by Chen Daoxian with a sword, Yin Jiasheng's face was gloomy. Especially when he heard the roars of the enemy army one after another. Yin Jizhen was even more disdainful in his heart. Humph! In the high section of the Dao domain, you dare to say that you are an invincible real person. Having said that, he also had to admit that Chen Daoxian was indeed a genius Jindan cultivator, who was rarely seen in 1,000 years. Only with the initial cultivation of Jindan, one can reach the Dao realm of the high Taoist realm. Other sects are not sure about the real people, but among his Qingwei Taoist sect, Jindan cultivators who can do this are extremely rare. If you can reach the high level of Dao domain realm in the early stage of Jindan, when you will reach the later stage of Jindan, won't you be able to reach the law realm? Thinking of this, immortal Yinjia's killing intent towards Chen Daoxian skyrocketed. He is another top immortal from the future of Wan Xinghai. This son must not be kept. Return. His voice sounded in the sea of knowledge of the defeated middle-stage Jindan cultivator. Yes, Commander. The middle-stage Jindan cultivator drove away in despair, and returned to the 6th order defense formation in Zenangwan. Seeing this, Chen Daoxian did not stop him, because he knew in his heart that with the strength he just showed, immortal Yinjiao would definitely not give up. After all, immortal Yinjia's cultivation level is much higher than his, and the realm of the Great Dao is basically the same as his Silk Rain Sword domain. If the two of them fought, Yinji Zhenren believed that he would be able to crush and even kill him. But the real Yinjiao never imagined that the enemy's Siyu sword intent was indeed only at the high level of the Dao domain realm. But Chen Daoxian's other space sword intent had already reached the law realm, and it had reached the middle part of the law realm. If he knew this information, Yinji Zhenren would have said nothing, and directly asked Minghuang Zhenjuan for help. But no if. In order to recover Zenangwan, Fairy Qi Yao went directly to the space teleportation formation between Qianyuan Jianzong and Linwu Xiancheng, and the enemy's intelligence secret, but there is no such fast means to transmit the information back to Zenangwan. Even Chen Daoxian's famous battle in Wuxia more than 2 months ago, Zenangwan didn't receive any news, otherwise the real Yinjiao would never dare to be so careless. In the eyes of Yinjiao Zhenren, he knows the top Jindan Zhenren in Wan Xinghai. As long as he doesn't encounter the top real people on the Jindan real person list, Inji real person is confident that he can compete with each other. Even if he encounters one Xinghai's top real person, as long as he is not the one who ranks high on the Jindan real person list, he will be sure to save his life. As we all know, since most of the Jindan cultivators began to focus on body refining and have fourth order spiritual armor, their life-saving ability is generally relatively strong. This caused the two Jindan cultivators to fight, and it would be difficult to kill each other if one was not stronger than the other. Chen Daoxuan's strength is so much stronger than Ji Suhui, and it was not after he was caught in the space cage that he used the laws of space to completely wipe out his body and golden core. Even Chen Daoxian, it is impossible to kill Ji Suhui casually. Humph! A majestic roar directly suppressed the clamor of the millions of monks in the Zhenan army. Immediately afterwards, a flash of light flew out directly from Zenangwan and came to Chen Daoxian in the blink of an eye. Seeing that the main lord was finally willing to show his face, a slight smile appeared on Chen Daoxuan's face. The result of this war is becoming a reality little by little according to what he had expected. After winning the real Injio, the Zhenan army will attack with all its strength, and the sixth order defensive formation may not be broken. Boy, before you die, sign up for the taboo. Like Chen Daoxian, Immortal Inji directly took off his spirit armor and wore only a black Taoist robe. It seems that in the face of Chen Daoxian, who is not as good as his younger generation, the real Injio is not willing to take advantage of him. In fact, he did this to restore the momentum of his own army. On the other hand, he was afraid of scaring Chen Daoxian away. Although Chen Daoxuan's cultivation is far inferior to him, the realm of the Great Tao is the same as his. It is not so easy for Yin Vulture to keep the other party. Both sides were relaxed and freehand in their hearts, but they showed a serious look on their faces. When Chen Daoxian heard this, he sneered. Do you think you can beat me with a higher cultivation level than me? Hearing these words, Injio felt certain in his heart, and said with a smile, just try it and you'll know. Heard. Chen Daoxian stopped talking nonsense, immediately unfold the Silk Rain Sword domain, and rushed towards Inji Zhenren. Seeing Chen Daoxian choose melee combat, Immortal Inji immediately smiled. Melee? Exactly what I want. Having said that, he also flashed a light to greet him. But, just when the two were about to meet face to face, Immortal Injio suddenly realized that something was wrong. Immortal Yin Vulture flickered, and then retreated sharply. Seeing this, Chen Daoxian didn't chase after him, and quietly watched him retreat until Immortal Injio slammed into a layer of transparent space barriers. At this time, Injio Zhenren raised his head in despair, and the fear in his eyes could hardly be restrained. Law Realm, you actually reached the Law Realm. He raised his hand tremblingly and pointed at Chen Daoxian. How can you be so shameless? Chen Daoxian looked at the real Yin Vulture who was locked in the space cage by him, and heaved a sigh of relief. Don't look at him easily sealing the real Yin Vulture in the space cage. In fact, it is not so easy to do all this. Because when Immortal Injio was out of the city, Zenangwan was a few miles behind, and Chen Daoxuan's space cage was difficult to get close to the 30-mile range of the Sixth Order defense formation. It is not impossible to forcibly break through the radiation range of the Sixth Order defense formation, but it is easy to be noticed by the real Yin Vulture. At that time, he would hide directly in the formation and could not come out, and Chen Daoxian would only be helpless. But fortunately, everything is developing as he expected. Right now, Immortal Injio was directly trapped by his space cage, and if he wanted to break Chen Daoxuan's space cage, a mere cultivator in the later stage of Jindan could not do it. Just when Chen Daoxian thought the overall situation was settled, Injio Daoist quickly took out a communication jade talisman from the storage ring and shouted, Minghuang Zhengjuan, save your life. The enemy has a Law Realm real person. Chapter 322. True Monarch Yuanying? Hearing Immortal Yinjia's call for help, Chen Daoxuan's footsteps stopped, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he waited intently. Sudden, he felt that the space cage that he had condensed into with the laws of space encountered a ferocious impact that was hard to resist. Not good. Chen Daoxuan's face changed suddenly. Boom! With just one blow, the unbreakable space cage in the eyes of Jindan cultivator became shaky. The real Jindan in the middle of the law realm is interesting. In Chen Daoxuan's ear, a faint voice suddenly sounded, and an unprecedented sense of crisis enveloped him. This feeling was very similar to the first encounter with Zhou Mubai, who was already in the Zifu period, when he was only in the qi refining period. Unfathomable. Yes, that's how it feels. In the sixth order grand formation of Zenangwen, a figure slowly walked out. As this figure approached the sky step by step, whether it was the army of more than 1 million monks from Wan Xinghai, or the defenders of the Xianqing Dao League stationed in Zenangwen, all became silent. At this moment, all the eyes of heaven and earth were focused on the monk who was slowly advancing step by step in the sky. True monarch Yuanying. This kind of imposing manner far surpassed that of Jindan Jinren. Only Yuanying Zhenjuan can have it. True monarch Minghuang glanced at the immortaline vulture trapped in the space cage, then turned to look at Chan Daoxian and said with a smile, "I didn't expect this seat to be sitting here, and I was waiting for such an arrogant person to be in vain. Decades of perseverance." Chan Daoxian looked at him intently, cupped his hands and said, "What do you call senior?" "The common name of this seat has long since forgotten, but the fellows call me Minghuang Zhenjuan. You can call me that." True monarch Minghuang. It's him. Chan Daoxian immediately recalled the information about all Yuan Zhenjuan of Xianqing Dao League. True monarch Minghuang, as a late Yuanying cultivator, was second only to the existence of the top true monarch, the hall master of Zhenhai Hall, and had always been the focus of the Qianyuan sword sect Shadow Hall. Regarding the information about this true monarch Minghuang, before coming to Zenangwen, Chan Daoxian also learned about the information recorded by Qianyuan Jianzong. Although the Qianyuan sword sect's Shadow Palace has never given up on collecting information on the Yuanying Zhenjuan of the Xianqing Dao League, it is very difficult to collect their information due to the strength of the Yuanying Zhenjuan. The Shadow Palace tried their best to collect only some information about the strength of true monarch Minghuang. As for the whereabouts of the other party, the Shadow Palace cannot be determined at all. If you want to track the whereabouts of a true monarch nascent soul for a long time, you must send a cultivator several grades higher than him. Compared with true monarch Minghuang, the late Yuanying cultivator strength is several grades higher. At least he must be Yuan Shen Daojun. Sending Yuan Shen Daojun to follow the whereabouts of a Yuanying cultivator has no value in gathering intelligence. Therefore, in the world of immortal cultivation, as long as it is not a large-scale gathering of Yuanying Zhenjuan, it is difficult to specifically determine the whereabouts of a Yuanying cultivator. Just like Qin Zhan, the master of Zhenhai Palace. As a top true monarch, especially a top true monarch who is good at the laws of space, his whereabouts can be said to be extremely difficult to grasp. Even sending a primordial spirit Taoist to follow him, it would be difficult to control his whereabouts. After all, with Qin Zhan's control over the laws of space, he can easily teleport over 1,000,000 miles without external interference. And Yuan Shen Daojun's divine consciousness can cover a radius of 100,000 miles, which is not bad. It is impossible to track Qin Zhan, who has teleported 1,000,000 miles away. What about you? What's your name? True monarch Minghuang looked at Chan Daoxian with interest. Cultivator of Tsangzhou, Chan Daoxian. Chan Daoxian. I remember. True monarch Minghuang nodded, then pointed to True Master Yingji. Can my people be released? Chan Daoxian took a deep breath, shook his head and said, No, I have the ability, save myself. Okay. True monarch Minghuang smiled slightly. As soon as the voice fell, his figure instantly disappeared in place. Chan Daoxuan's consciousness was always focused on the opponent. He found that the disappearance of Minghuang Zhenjuan was not a teleportation like him, but a pure high-speed movement in the air. Only the escape light can achieve a speed that is not inferior to teleportation in a short distance. How strong is the body of this true monarch Minghuang? Chen Daoxian was horrified. After the cultivator reaches the Jindan stage, the speed of escape will skyrocket again, and in the nascent soul stage, the speed of escape will become even more perverted, basically reaching a point that is difficult for low-level cultivators to capture. But even if Chen Daoxian knew that true monarch Yuanying escaped at an astonishing speed, he did not expect true monarch Minghuang to be so fast. Almost at the same time as the mind is running, true monarch Minghuang, who was outside the defense formation at Zenangwen a moment ago, appeared in front of Chen Daoxuan's condensed space cage the next moment. Immediately after, True Monarch Minghuang punched straight and bombarded the space cage condensed by Chen Daoxian. Whoa! The space barrier of the space cage, like a broken mirror, was instantly shattered by a punch from Minghuang Xinjuan. Immortal Ingio, who survived the catastrophe, was speechless when he saw True Monarch Minghuang. Sir, the cultivator of the Jindan stage in the middle of the law realm, it is normal for you to be no match, so I don't blame you, True Monarch Minghuang said gently. Hearing this, Ingio Zhenren couldn't help feeling that a scholar would die for his confidant. He bowed his hands to Zhenjuan Minghuang, and then returned to the defense formation of Zhenangwen in a sullen manner. Seeing the real Ingio escape, Chen Daoxian didn't care at all. Right now, all his attention is on this True Monarch Minghuang. This True Monarch Minghuang is the most powerful enemy he has encountered since he embarked on the path of cultivation. The late nascent soul cultivation base, the realm of the high section of the law of fire. Chen Daoxian said secretly, this is the cultivation base and avenue realm of True Monarch Minghuang, recorded in the Qianyuan Sword Sect's intelligence. I have to say that this information about True Monarch Minghuang is extremely concise. What secrets the other party knows, what powerful magical tools, especially how the body training is, there is no record in the information. Although Chen Daoxian was confident that he had played all his cards before, he was comparable to a mid-dollar monk. But this one in front of him is a genuine late nascent soul cultivator, who is only one level weaker than the hall master of Zhenhai Palace. Chen Daoxian never thought that he would encounter such an opponent so early. But to be afraid it's not. With his strength coupled with his good at space laws, even if he can't beat this True Monarch Minghuang, there is no problem in escaping. Not only was he able to escape, Chen Daoxian even had the confidence to escape with the descendants of the Chen family. Of course, as for the remaining Songzhou cultivators and Qianyuan Sword Sect disciples, he had no choice. There are more than 1 million monks, not to mention whether he can escape with his life. It is impossible for this True Monarch Minghuang to give him such an opportunity. Chen Daoxian looked at True Monarch Minghuang and said, if you want to fight in another place, you won't be able to use it here. Hearing this, True Monarch Minghuang looked back at Zhenangwen, nodded and said, please. Chen Daoxian immediately disappeared and flew more than 1,000 miles to the side of the battlefield here, followed by True Monarch Minghuang. The two were far away from Zhenangwen and the Wan Xinghai monk camp, and they all relaxed. A Jindan real person in the middle of the space law in terms of strength is almost not weaker than the ordinary nascent soul cultivator. Although True Monarch Minghuang thinks that Chen Daoxian's strength is far inferior to him, but when they really fought, the two broke out with all their strength, and they might destroy the sixth-order defense formation of Zhenangwen. After all, the defensive formation was only presided over by the Jindan cultivator, and its defensive power was very limited. Now both of them have no ideological burden, and naturally they are all relaxed. Facing each other, whether it is Chen Daoxian or True Monarch Minghuang, they are all very confident. Chen Daoxian's confidence came from the fact that on his way to Zhenangwen, he integrated two thoughts into the law of space and the sword intent of Siyu. Now he has been able to use the law of space and the sword intent of Silk Rain at the same time, and reluctantly use them to set up a sword formation of two ceremonies. Although the Silk Rain sword intent has not transformed into the Silk Rain law, it can at least make his space law power skyrocket. Compared with the law of fire, the law of space has some advantages, plus the bonus of the Silk Rain sword. Whether Chen Daoxian's two-yield sword formation can rival Minghuang Zhenjin's law of fire movement is really two things. Take 10,000 steps back. Chen Daoxian's cultivation level is much lower than that of True Monarch Minghuang, and the two-yield sword array he displayed is no match for the other side. When Chen Daoxian was in the Zifu period, he once displayed the Star Sword Dao map. At that time, the power that this map erupted was no less than that of the True Monarch Yuanying's full force of Dao domain coercion. Now that Chen Daoxian's cultivation has broken through to the Golden Core stage, especially when the Space Sword intent has transformed into the Law Realm, the power of the Star Sword Dao map will only skyrocket again. Because the power of the Star Kendo map is not only related to the monk who uses it, but also related to the type and depth of the laws on this map. Chen Daoxian's Space Sword intent has transformed into Space Law, and the power of the Star Sword Dao map will inevitably go further. As for the specific level, even Chan Daoxian himself does not know, because it takes too much mana to use Xingqian Kendo diagram. Even if he is in the golden core stage now, he cannot use it for a long time, so he has never tried to use this treasure. After all, the Xingqian Kendo map is essentially a pure Yang fairy weapon. Pure Yang immortal artifacts can be used by Jindan monks, and even Zifu monks at will. Seeing Chan Daoxian so confident, True Monarch Minghuang grinned and disappeared immediately. Chan Daoxian, whose consciousness locked onto the opponent, showed teleportation at the moment when True Monarch Minghuang disappeared, and his figure disappeared in place. Really? At the moment when Chan Daoxian disappeared, True Monarch Minghuang appeared in the position where he stayed before. Teleport. True Monarch Minghuang nodded. That's interesting. After speaking, he stopped talking, and approached Chan Daoxian again and again by relying on the escape light, while Chan Daoxian relied on the laws of space and kept teleporting, just not contacting him. After hundreds of chases, True Monarch Minghuang got tired of it, and he frowned. Do you think you will be invincible by teleporting? Chan Daoxian stopped and smiled lightly. Fighting relies on strength, not mouth. Humph. True Monarch Minghuang snorted coldly, and immediately took out a small tower-shaped magic weapon from the storage ring. Xianhuang Town Sky Tower Go. 5-level high-grade magic weapon. Chan Daoxian immediately recognized the rank of this instrument from the aura of the instrument. But the strange thing is that after the True Monarch Minghuang sacrificed the Xianhuang Town Sky Tower, the tower did not attack Chan Daoxian, but hung beside the True Monarch Minghuang. Seeing this, Chan Daoxian's expression changed immediately, and he thought of a possibility. Dao Domain Magic Weapon. It's a little bit of knowledge. Although Chan Daoxian had never seen the so-called Dao Domain Magical Tool, its imitation, the Domain Magical Tool, was famous among the low-level monks in Wanxinghai. Chan Daoxian remembered that when he first went to the immortal city of Guang'an Prefecture, he bought a refined jade slip of a first-order domain magic weapon. It's just that the name of the domain magic tool sounds very powerful, but it is actually just the most simple imitation of the Tao Domain Magic Tool. The so-called Dao Domain instruments must be used only when the monk's Dao realm reaches the Dao realm. The full name of Dao Domain Magical Artifact should be Dao Domain Augmented Magical Artifact. Its function is very single, that is, to increase the power of the monk's domain. It stands to reason that after the Dao realm of the Yuanian cultivator reached the Law realm, the Dao realm that was once condensed in the Golden Core stage, its power has also risen, far from being comparable to the original. But in fact, when Yuanning Zhenjuan fought each other, he rarely used Dao Domain. If the Dao Domain mastered by the nascent soul cultivator is compared to a net, then the law he masters is a sharp knife. Using the Dao Domain to deal with the low-level Jindan cultivator is naturally easy to capture, but if it is used to deal with the Yuanning True Monarch of the same realm, the Dao Domain will be torn apart by the opponent in an instant, making people laugh. This is also the reason why Chan Daoxian and True Monarch Minghuang have chased so far, but neither of them have used Dao Domain. But is it true that Yuanning Zhenjin's Dao Domain has no effect at all? It's not true. If it is said that under normal circumstances, the Dao Domain displayed by the Yuanning cultivator is an ordinary net, then after the Dao Domain is used to initiate, this net becomes an iron mesh, a steel mesh, and the power is increased tenfold. In this way, the Dao Domain displayed by the Yuanning cultivator can naturally pose a threat to the cultivator of the same level. Of course, it's just a threat, relying on the Dao Domain to defeat the opponent. Unless the gap between the strengths of the two is as large as that of the top True Monarch and the early nascent soul cultivator, it will never be possible. But right now, what True Monarch Minghuang wants to do is not to let his Dao Domain defeat Chan Daoxian, but to use Dao Domain to prevent or delay the frequency of Chan Daoxian's teleportation. With the speed of True Monarch Minghuang, once Chan Daoxian's teleportation speed was delayed, he had to be forced to fight with him. And if you fight hard, and True Monarch Minghuang is confident, that will be Chan Daoxian's death. Although the Jindan real person in the middle of the Law realm is rare, it is impossible to be the opponent of the late nascent soul monk. Seeing that True Monarch Minghuang took out the Taoist magic weapon, Chan Daoxian knew that he could no longer hide his clumsiness. Otherwise, if the trump card is not taken out, and the True Monarch Minghuang is directly punched to death, then there is no reason to do so. Just the moment when True Monarch Minghuang sacrificed Xianhuang Town Tianta, Chan Daoxian opened his mouth and spit. A star map like a pitch-dark sky flew out of his mouth, and it was his most hidden trump card, the Star Kendo map. Chapter 323. Young Sect Master, you can't get closer. It is about 500 miles away from the battle center between Chan Daoxian and true monarch Ming Huang. Fairy Qi Yao and his party were standing in the air, observing the battle between Chan Daoxian and true monarch Ming Huang with their divine sense. Under normal circumstances, Jindan cultivators' consciousness can easily cover thousands of miles. But right now the two nascent soul-level powerhouses are fighting, and Fairy Qi Yao and others are thousands of miles away, and they can't see the situation at all. At the center of the battle between Chan Daoxian and true monarch Ming Huang, the law of the fierce confrontation between the two distorted the space, and it was difficult to approach with the spiritual consciousness of Fairy Qi Yao and others. The only way is to fly closer. But the closer the two are fighting, the greater the risk. Although the Jindan cultivator is much stronger than the Zifu cultivator, he is not even qualified to watch the nascent soul cultivator fighting. However, Chan Daoxian and true monarch Ming Huang are much stronger than ordinary nascent soul cultivators. With Fairy Qi Yao, the strongest of the seven, only has the cultivation level of the middle stage of Jindan, and the risk of watching the battle at close range is indeed greater. Fairy Qi Yao turned her head and glanced at the Jindan cultivator who reminded her, thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Don't come close, just here." Her voice just fell. Chan Daoxian also ended the conversation with true monarch Ming Huang, and the two fell into an anxious chase. Half an hour. Fairy Qi Yao couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief as the war between the two warring men reached a stalemate. Zenangwen has a cultivator of nascent soul in charge, and a late nascent soul cultivator sits in charge, which she never imagined. In the Qianyuan sword sect's information, there was no mention of the news that Zenangwen had monks in the late Yuanying period. Otherwise, Qianyuan Jianzong would never send their mere 8 Jindan cultivators to recover Zenangwen. Fortunately, among the 8 Jindan cultivators, although the other 7 were not very strong, there was Chan Daoxian, a top real person who could compete with a nascent soul cultivator 1 or 2 times. Thinking of this, Fairy Qi Yao couldn't help but secretly call her luck. If it weren't for Chan Daoxian, Fairy Qi Yao couldn't help shivering. I am afraid that their Zhenan army will be wiped out like the Zenangwen cultivator back then. Normally, with a lineup of 7 early Jindan cultivators plus a mid-stage Jindan cultivator, there is simply no qualification to resist the late nascent soul cultivator. Even if these 8 Jindan cultivators form a battle against each other, it will have no effect at all. The strength gap is so large that even the formation cannot make up for it. Just as Fairy Qi Yao breathed a sigh of relief, the only middle-level Jindan cultivator suddenly said, "Look, fellow Daoist Chan," and the true monarch Ming Huang stopped. Hearing the words, everyone concentrated their consciousness and probed towards the two fighting people. Sure enough, just as the middle-stage Jindan cultivator said, true monarch Ming Huang chased Chan Daoxian many times to no avail, hovered directly in the air, and took out a magic weapon from the storage ring. It's a 5th-order high-grade magic weapon. Among the 7 Jindan real people, there is a Jindan cultivator who is good at refining tools. He recognized the rank of the small tower taken out by Minghuang Zhenjuan at a glance, Xianhuang Zhantian Tower. It is a Taoist magic weapon. Not good. When she heard the Dao domain magic weapon, Fairy Qi Yao was suddenly shocked. As a Jindan cultivator in the middle of the Taoist realm, Fairy Qi Yao is very clear about how much the Taoist power displayed by the monks will be improved with the blessing of the Taoist magic weapon. The Dao realm displayed by the late Yuanying cultivation base of true monarch Ming Huang was a lot stronger than the Dao realm displayed by the Jindan cultivator, plus the increase in the Dao realm instruments. If Chen Daoxian does not have a deep understanding of space transmission, I am afraid that he will not be able to break the solidification of Minghuang Zhenjuan Dao domain on space. At that time, Chen Daoxian couldn't even perform teleportation. Once the teleportation cannot be performed, with Chan Daoxian's escaping speed, he is forced to fight recklessly with a late nascent soul cultivator. Then the result. Not only Fairy Qi Yao but other Jindan real people also saw this, and their mood suddenly became nervous. There are even a few active-minded Jindan real people who are already thinking about whether to run away in advance. After all, after Chan Daoxian was defeated, the unlucky ones were the 7 of them. Anyway, Chan Daoxian can still use the space law in the middle of the law realm to deal with true monarch Minghuang for a while. When they meet true monarch Minghuang, it is definitely a one-shot ending, and there will be no surprises. Fairy Qi Yao also seemed to see the thoughts of several people, and warned, "Before I set off, I have made a military order at the sect, and those who are timid in this battle will be executed. Even if you are lucky enough to escape this time, think about how you will face the pursuit of the sect after returning to the sect." Hearing this, the timid Jindan cultivators couldn't help lowering their heads. "Young sect master, look, what is that?" The only mid-level Jindan cultivator on the field suddenly said. Hearing this, Fairy Qi Yao did not care about the timid people, and focused on exploring the changes on the battlefield. Under the investigation of divine sense, Fairy Qi Yao saw that Chan Daoxian actually took out a roll of the star map magic weapon, and quickly unfolded it after the true monarch Minghuang sacrificed the Xianhuang town sky pagoda. Moreover, Fairy Qi Yao faintly felt a trace of pure yang on the star map of Chan Daoxian. That's pure yang immortal artifact. Pure yang immortal artifact? How could it be a pure yang fairy weapon? Hearing the pure yang immortal artifact in Fairy Qi Yao's mouth, everyone forgot to be afraid at the moment. That's a fairy. The entire Qinyuan sword sect was inherited from the ancient sect, and in the entire sect, there was only one immortal weapon as the treasure of the sect. And Chan Daoxian, as a newly rising immortal family in Wanxinghai, Hida Hinang, actually has an immortal weapon by his side. At this moment, in the eyes of everyone looking at Chan Daoxian, in addition to awe, there is also a hint of greed. In the world of cultivating immortals, anything that can be related to a true immortal will be highly sought after by all monks. The source law scattered in the real fairy source world is like this, and so is the pure yang fairy weapon in Chen Daoxuan's hand. After everyone was amazed, even if someone found out that the situation was wrong, they retorted, "Could the military commander be mistaken? As far as I know, the pure yang immortal artifact has extremely high requirements on the user's cultivation. Usually, only the master of Yuanshan can be reluctantly motivated. Fairy. Although Dao Yuchen's Dao realm is high, but his cultivation is only at the golden stage, how can he motivate the pure yang fairy weapon?" Hearing this question, everyone came back to their senses and nodded in agreement. What Dao Yuwang said is very true. That's right. Extremely. Hearing this question, Fairy Qi Yao didn't refute either, because she couldn't explain this phenomenon either. The star map in Chan Daoxuan's hand does exude a trace of pure yang breath, and she has only seen this treasure with pure yang breath on the Emperor Yes Bell in the hands of the master. Seeing that the young sect master of his own family did not speak, everyone just assumed that she was wrong, and immediately stopped investigating. Just when the atmosphere in the crowd was a little dull, a Jindan cultivator suddenly said, "Everyone, why is it dark today? This? How could this be? Changing the sky is unheard of." Everyone noticed the vision and raised their heads in horror. Sure enough, just as the Golden Core cultivator said just now, the sky over 2,300 li was completely dark. Over the Jinan army barracks, the Zhangzhou cultivators headed by Zhou Mubai, Chan Fuxing and others all looked into the sky where Chan Daoxian was leaving. He was anxiously speculating about the outcome of this battle. Zhou Mubai looked at the sky with 1,000 thoughts in his heart. Once upon a time he was still the arrogance in Chen Daoxuan's eyes, but now he doesn't even have the qualifications to watch Chen Daoxuan's battle. Just when he was emotional, the sky suddenly darkened and became pitch black. What happened? I don't know, it's suddenly dark. It was suddenly dark and everyone panicked. It's true that they are monks, but monks are also human beings, just a group of relatively powerful people. But right now, this group of powerful people will also feel panic in front of this scene of sudden changes in the sky. This kind of panic is the instinct of all kinds of creatures when they face natural disasters. In the crowd, Zhou Mubai and Chan Fuxing were much stronger than ordinary Zifu cultivators after all. After the two of them looked at each other, Chan Fuxing immediately expanded his consciousness and said to everyone, "Don't panic, we have to trust Patriarch Chan. He will definitely defeat the enemy and lead us back to Zenangwan." At this time, Zhou Mubai continued to shout, Yes, Chen Jinren has never let down my Zhangzhou cultivator. Never before. And will never let you down. Yeah, Chen Jinren is talented, and almost all battles are fought at a higher level, and this time he will definitely not lose. That's right. The Zhangzhou cultivators seem to comfort themselves, and they seem to have some confidence in Chan Daoxian, and the panicked expressions on their faces became calm. The Zhangzhou cultivators settled down, and under their influence, the Qianyuan sword sect disciples also settled down. Seeing that the military's heart stabilized again, Zhou Mubai and Chen Fuxing looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. If Chen Daoxian and the enemy true monarch won't decide whether to win or lose, and they, the Wanxinghai cultivator, the first army broke down and fled for their lives, then it would be a big joke. In particular, Chen Daoxian won the battle, and when he came back to look, he found that all the monks in the military camp had fled, and it was estimated that he would vomit blood. Zenangwan city head, Yingji Zhenren, who escaped from Chen Daoxian's hands, was listening to his subordinate's advice. Commander, all the Jindan cultivators of the enemy are not in the barracks at the moment. We can send Jindan real people out of the city to make a sneak attack at this moment, and we will definitely achieve great results. Hearing this, Yinjiuzhen squinted his eyes and sneered. Oh, sneak attack out of the city, since you want to sneak out of the city so much, I'll send you there, how about it? Coach, to shut up. Seeing that the cultivator in the middle stage of Jindan still wanted to make a quibble, the real Yinjiu stared at him fiercely. Senior brother, I know that you are eager to make contributions, but here I am the coach. Saying that, Yinjiu Zhenren said with lingering fears, I won't go anywhere until Zhenjuan returns. Seeing that immortal Yinjiu had been frightened, the middle stage Jindan cultivator surnamed Yu greeted him, but he was very disdainful in his heart, because he knew that the real Yin vulture had been frightened by the real man who came to call the enemy. On the contrary, although he was slashed by Chen Daoxian's sword, he never felt the despair of the real Yin Jiu. After all, Chen Daoxian never planned to kill him, and he didn't feel Chen Daoxian's killing intent, so he naturally felt that Chen Daoxian was not terrible. Immortal Yinjiu was about to speak, but found that the sky suddenly became dark. This is Immortal Yinjiu and Immortal Yu surnamed each other, and both of them showed a trace of fear in their eyes. For some reason, Immortal Yinjiu had a bad premonition in his heart, and at this moment, he couldn't help but feel a hint of retreat. Compared with the real Yin vulture, he has the intention of retreating. True monarch Minghuang is now facing the biggest crisis and pressure he has encountered since breaking through the nascent soul period. Now, he is no longer only wearing a black Taoist robe, with the appearance of an immortal Taoist bone, but his whole body, including his eyes, is wrapped in 5th order mid-grade spirit armor. But even if his whole body was protected by the black spirit armor, as the pressure on the spirit armor increased, cracks that were visible to the naked eye still appeared on the spirit armor. Even, not only the spirit armor, but also cracks began to appear in the body of true monarch Minghuang. What's even more terrifying is that in the cracks and gaps in his body, traces of black matter are being squeezed out of his fleshly body, and are wiped out little by little. As this black substance was repelled and wiped out, the terrifying fleshly body of true monarch Minghuang began to weaken little by little. That's right, this black substance is the true meaning of immortality that Jindan cultivators dream of. Right now, under the pressure of Xingqian Kendo map, true monarch Minghuang was not only unable to resist its attack, but even the most fundamental indestructible true meaning of the fleshly body was crowded out and obliterated. The world is suppressed. You are the world. True monarch Minghuang gritted his teeth and roared. No, you are not in the world. He raised his head. It's this treasure, it's this very weapon. True monarch Minghuang stared at Chen Daoxian, and he still looked relaxed and freehand before. But at this moment his body, soul and everything about him were suppressed by the Xingqian Kendo map. The first thing he couldn't resist was not the spirit armor on his body, but the Xianhuang Zhentian pagoda he sacrificed. I saw a whimper from the khaki-yellow Xianhuang town sky tower, and flew directly towards the storage ring of true monarch Minghuang. The pain in the eyes of true monarch Minghuang disappeared in a flash, and he put the damaged small tower into the storage ring in distress. Losing the blessing of Xianhuang Zhentian pagoda for his own Dao domain, the pressure on true monarch Minghuang is even greater. Crack! Kick! Kick! On the black spirit armor, there were bursts of sour sounds. On the flesh, the black matter is passing faster and faster. Seeing this, true monarch Ming Huang finally made up his mind and resorted to desperate secret techniques. Fighting desperately with a Jindan real person, Zhenjuan Ming Huang had never thought about it before. But at this moment, if he didn't fight, he would die, and he couldn't help hesitating. 7 soul-burning soul dafa. True monarch Ming Huang roared, and in the sea of Dantian energy, he sat cross-legged on the nascent soul in the Z mansion, and suddenly a pinch of purple flames erupted, and his nascent soul actually burned. As true monarch Ming Huang's nascent soul was burned, an indescribable terrifying mana burst out from his purple mansion. Charged by this terrifying mana, true monarch Ming Huang found that he was actually able to move. However, the pain of nascent soul being burned made true monarch Ming Huang's entire face distorted. Die! I want you to die! I want you to die! True monarch Ming Huang roared, bursting out with all his speed, and charged straight towards Chan Daoxian. 7017K. Chapter 324. Seeing that true monarch Ming Huang used the secret technique of fighting for his life, broke free from the suppression of the Xingqian Kendo map and rushed towards him, but Chan Daoxuan's face did not show any fear. Because of the loss of the restrictions of the Xianhuang Zhantian Tower, he could teleport again. Before the true monarch Ming Huang rushed to Chan Daoxian, he saw him teleport and disappeared again. Seeing this, true monarch Ming Huang endured the pain of being stripped of the inextinguishable meaning of his fleshly body, and the pain of his nascent soul being burned, and turned his head and fled. Want to escape? Chan Daoxian raised his brows slightly, sneered, then stretched out his palm and squeezed it hard, and a space barrier suddenly lay in front of true monarch Ming Huang. Go away! True monarch Ming Huang roared and punched the space barrier, smashing it to pieces. But this punch also made the figure of true monarch Ming Huang slam, and Dun Guang was forced to stop. Suddenly, true monarch Ming Huang realized that he was in a desperate situation. Neither fight nor escape. He turned his head, his eyes stared at Chan Daoxian fiercely, but he still confessed and said, Das friendly means I will fall down, you just need to let me go Zanangwan Xiancheng, I am willing to give up. How? Who knows that Chan Daoxian shook his head and said indifferently, fellow Taoist fights when he wants to fight, and stops when he wants to stop. There is no such easy thing in this world. Hearing this, true monarch Ming Huang's complexion suddenly changed, and he returned to his vicious appearance, and said, fellow Taoist just has the upper hand, and if you continue to waste it, it's unclear who will die. Although I don't know what price you paid for using this pure young immortal artifact, I don't believe you can keep going. Hearing this, Chan Daoxian didn't say a word, and continued to inject a mana into the Xingqian Kendo diagram, and the speed of the disintegration of true monarch Ming Huang's body suddenly accelerated. Damn! Damn! True monarch Ming Huang was in a hurry, stopped talking nonsense, turned his head and ran away. Chan Daoxian was far behind him, blocking his figure with space barriers from time to time. Originally, Chan Daoxian wanted to use the Liangyi sword formation to fight against true monarch Ming Huang, but he found that he had far underestimated the power of the Star Sword Dao map. With this pure young immortal artifact in place, there is no need for a 2-year sword formation. Only the repressive power of the Xingqian Kendo map, the true monarch Ming Huang cannot resist. Although the Star's Kendo map consumes a lot of mana, but at the speed at which true monarch Ming Huang's body collapses, he will definitely fall before Chan Daoxuan's mana is exhausted. This is also the reason why the other party begged for mercy just now. Gradually, the speed of the collapse of true monarch Ming Huang's spirit armor and fleshly body became faster and faster. After about half a cup of tea, the aura on the black spirit armor on true monarch Ming Huang suddenly dissipated, and immediately, this 5th order mid-grade spirit armor turned into a little light and completely collapsed and disappeared. Do not! Seeing the destruction of the protective body armor, true monarch Ming Huang showed a hint of despair in his eyes. After the spirit armor collapsed, the defense of true monarch Ming Huang suddenly dropped by a notch. Although true monarch Ming Huang has integrated the will of immortality into the depths of his body, he is much stronger than Ji Suhui, who was beheaded by Chan Daoxian. But this powerful fleshly body disintegrated and dissipated in only a few dozen breaths under the suppression of the star's kendo map. I'm the elder of the Qingwei Taoist faction. You can't kill me. The Xianqing Taoist League will never let you go. Fellow Taoists, spare my life. I will do whatever you want. I just ask you to spare my life. You bastard, I won't let you go even if I'm a ghost. Oh. Threatening, begging for mercy and scolding, true monarch Minghuang abandoned all the dignity and face of a true monarch nascent soul in just a few dozen breaths, just to survive. But Chen Daoxian remained unmoved, determined to kill him. An enemy of the late nascent soul, he did not dare to let go. Even if he himself is not afraid of the revenge of this late nascent soul true monarch, the Chen family behind him can't stand the care of a late nascent soul monk. Since offended, it will be completely eradicated. After killing true monarch Minghuang and then recovering Zhenan Pass, there will be no obstacles. Once Zhenan Pass is captured, he will be free to go to the one-year appointment of the Hall Master of Zhenhai Palace. Die. In the void, the body of true monarch Minghuang was almost shrouded in a cloud of black mist. These black mists were all the inextinguishable true meanings that he integrated into the body after he broke through the nascent soul stage. Chen Daoxian didn't know if there were any secret calculations left by the other party in these indestructible true meanings. As all the true meaning of immortality was stripped away, the body of true monarch Minghuang collapsed almost instantly. Whoosh! Where the body of true monarch Minghuang collapsed, a purple streamer flashed away. Oh, at this level, fellow Taoist still wants to escape? Chen Daoxian sneered. The next moment, a 3-inch tall purple villain slammed into the space barrier under Chen Daoxian's cloth. The purple villain turned his head. His eyebrows, eyes and face were exactly the same as those of true monarch Minghuang, who was the Yuaning of true monarch Minghuang. I saw the nascent soul staring at Chen Daoxian viciously, and immediately knelt down on the spot, saying sadly, "Friend Taoist is merciful. This old man has spent more than 1,700 years in his cultivation to this day, and I hope that friend Taoist will take care of this old man's hard work. Come on, spare my life." Saying that, kowtow like pounding garlic. Immediately, true monarch Minghuang seemed to think of something, raised his head and said, "If fellow Taoists don't dislike it, I would like to make an oath of the great Tao and respect fellow Taoists as the master. Oh yes, I can still lurk in the Qingwei Taoist sect, as a secret child, to inquire about the news of your master." Hearing that true monarch Minghuang was willing to serve him as the master, Chen Daoxian didn't care too much. But when he heard that true monarch Minghuang was willing to be the dark sun, to inquire about the news for him in the Qingwei Taoist sect, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but feel a little moved. As an old monster who has practiced for more than 1,700 years, true monarch Minghuang has such vicious eyes that he could even see that Chen Daoxian was moved. Seeing this, he was ecstatic in his heart, but he didn't show it at all but directly swore, "I, the true monarch Minghuang, make an oath of the great Tao here, and I would like to serve this fellow in front of me as the master, and if I betray, let me." My true monarch Minghuang was bombarded by lightning and died. Boom! A dull thunder sounded, and the oath of the avenue was actually fulfilled. Owner! After making the oath of the avenue, true monarch Minghuang immediately lowered his eyebrows and called Chen Daoxian his master. Seeing that this true monarch Minghuang was able to bend and stretch, Chen Daoxian's heart moved. But he said, "Since you are willing to serve me as my master, then I will ask you what treasures are there in the Qingwei Taoist sect to restore the soul." The treasure that repairs the soul? True monarch Minghuang was stunned for a moment, but he was horrified in his heart. Tai Shunshui is one of the most secret things of the Qingwei Taoist sect. Only the monks above the middle nascent soul have heard of it in the entire sect. Even he, a late nascent soul cultivator, only knows that a drop of Tai divine water will be born in the sect in the near future, but he doesn't even know the specific date. How does this person know? True monarch Minghuang couldn't help but think that there must be spies from the Qianyuan sword sect in the sect, and their status is extremely high. But right now he can't protect himself, so he can't care about any sect spies. Thinking of this, true monarch Minghuang revealed all the information he knew. Tai Shunshui. Chen Daoxian muttered. Now, he finally knew what the one-year agreement was meant by the Hall Master of Zhenhai Palace. It is actually the treasure born from the Tai Immortal Pond of the Qingwei Taoism school Tai Shunshui. This treasure can be used to purify the soul of Yuanying cultivators, and it will be of great help for Yuanying cultivators to break through to the Yuanshan stage. No wonder Palace Master Qin said that it depends on my good fortune. If you want to grab Tai Shun Shui from the nest of the Qingwei Taoist sect, I am afraid that even Palace Master Qin is not sure about it. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxuan's eyes flickered, and various calculations came to his mind. True monarch Minghuang saw Chen Daoxian meditating, and flew to him pitifully, waiting for Chen Daoxian to fall. In the previous battle, true monarch Minghuang not only used the 7 soul burning dafa to burn the nascent soul, but then his body was destroyed, and the nascent soul was exposed outside the body. At this moment he is already crumbling, and his consciousness is about to sink. But true monarch Minghuang is still in high spirits, because he knows that only if he shows enough value now can he survive in the hands of this terrifying Jindan real person in front of him. True monarch Minghuang never thought that one day he would be planted in the hands of a Jindan real person. Indulge for a moment. Chen Daoxian turned his head to look at true monarch Minghuang, and said, "If I let you go back to the sect to steal the Tai divine water, are you sure?" Hearing this, true monarch Minghuang looked embarrassed. He cupped his hands and said bitterly, "Master, Tai Shun Shui is the treasure of my Qingwei Taoism. Even with my status in the sect on weekdays, it is very difficult. Get in touch with it, let alone now." Chen Daoxian looked at the appearance of Yuanying's spiritual light after the physical body of Minghuang was destroyed, and nodded. "You are quite honest. Master's eyes are like torches, how dare you hide it? Pity." Chen Daoxian shook his head. "I don't know what the master regrets?" Chen Daoxuan's eyes were indifferent, and then he reached out and grabbed it, holding the nascent soul of true monarch Minghuang in his hand. Suddenly, the law of space broke out, directly strangling true monarch Minghuang's nascent soul into pieces. Afterwards, nascent soul turned into a little bit of aura, dissipating between heaven and earth. Until his death, true monarch Minghuang couldn't believe it, why he was so obedient when he was so obedient, that the real person in front of him would still kill him. Doesn't the other party know how much benefit a servant in the late nascent soul can bring him? Unfortunately, a servant who can bend and stretch, I really have no luck, so I can only let you die. Chen Daoxian looked at nascent soul dissipated in his hands and muttered. Although true monarch Minghuang made the oath of the Great Way, this oath of the Great Way is not without solution. At least Chen Daoxian knew a way to break the oath of the Great Tao. As a Yuanying monk, true monarch Minghuang had his body destroyed again. Even if Chen Daoxian spared his life, he would either take the body of others or take the path of reincarnation. Once the other party takes the path of reincarnation, the oath he made at this moment is just a piece of bullshit. Moreover, Chen Daoxian was sure that if the opponent was reincarnated as a soldier, he would definitely him off before he was resolved. Therefore, Chen Daoxian naturally had to smash the other side to ashes, and not give him any chance at all. There are countless examples of monks with higher cultivation levels capsized in the gutter, and there are countless examples in the world of immortal cultivation, not to mention that he, a Jindan cultivator, faced a late nascent soul cultivator about thousands of miles away. Fairy Qiyao and the others watched Chen Daoxian and true monarch Minghuang chase and flee, and flew out of their spiritual detection range, and did not dare to follow them to check. Because the power that Chen Daoxian just displayed when he used the star's kendo map was really terrifying. Seeing Chen Daoxian displaying the star sword Dao map, Fairy Qiyao actually had the illusion of facing the little uncle. But how could this be possible? Although his little uncle was a mid-Yuanying cultivator before, he was a real top real monarch. The so-called top true monarchs are not randomly divided, but a strict division of strength made by the nascent soul cultivators based on their personal cultivation, Dao realm, secret methods and magical tools. Although this division of strength is not rigorous, it is enough to serve as an important reference for the fight between them. For example, what true monarch Minghuang encountered today was not Chen Daoxian, but the hall master of Zhenhai Palace. I'm afraid he wouldn't even dare to fight in person, and he would run away without saying a word. This is the true monarch Yuanying's perception of each other's strength. Chen Daoxuan's own strength, although he can also be classified into the nascent soul level, but it is still difficult to compare with the Minghuang Xinjuan. This time he was able to kill true monarch Minghuang, all thanks to the pure yang immortal artifact Xingqian Kendo map. Although the power of the star's kendo map is far inferior to that of the pure yang immortal artifact, it is far more powerful than the 5th order magic tool, or even the 6th order magic tool. Only in this way, Xingqian Kendo 2 can reverse the strength gap between him and true monarch Minghuang in one fell swoop, and help him kill the opponent. Sect Master, what should we do now? Next to Fairy Qi Yao, the only middle-stage Jindan cultivator asked. Hearing this, Fairy Qi Yao shook her head. I don't know either, let's wait until fellow Daoishan comes back. You think he will win? Fairy Qi Yao was slightly startled when she heard this. Before she knew it, she thought that Chan Daoxian would win a late nascent soul true monarch. If this word spreads out, I am afraid that people will be regarded as crazy. Even if the real person of Xinjue was invincible in the Jindan stage, he would not dare to say that he could win a late nascent soul cultivator. Could it be that he, Chan Daoxian, is stronger than the real Xinjue of the year? That is a peerless fierce man who, by his own strength, has caused chaos in the sea of stars in several states. Unconsciously, Chan Daoxian has grown to this point. Fairy Qi Yao still remembers the scene when Chan Daoxian accompanied her to trap the real Xinjue, who was hiding in the space of Xianfu. How many years have passed? Thinking of this, Fairy Qi Yao couldn't help but look in a trance. Young Sect Master. Seeing Fairy Qi Yao distracted, the middle-stage Jindan cultivator beside him couldn't help calling softly. Fine. Fairy Qi Yao, who came back to her senses, smiled, then looked in the direction where Chan Daoxian disappeared. I think he will win. The young sect master's eyes are like torches. Chan Daoxian. Hearing this familiar voice, Fairy Qi Yao turned around excitedly, only to see that the space in front of her was torn apart, and a figure came out from the torn space gap. Seeing the man in white in front of her, Fairy Qi Yao couldn't help but feel the urge to cry. Who knows, in the short period of time less than a stick of incense watching Chan Daoxian and true monarch Minghuang fight, Fairy Qi Yao, who was calm on the surface, collapsed inside. You won. Chan Daoxian nodded and said with a smile, fortunately, I didn't humiliate my life. Chapter 325. Zhenan Army Barracks. Zhou Mubai, Chen Fuxing, and the others watched Chen Daoxian and the others flying towards them, their faces suddenly filled with ecstasy. It's back, it's back. Who is back? Chen Zhenren. Chen Zhenren is back. Inside the camp, happy voices rose and fell one after another. Chen Zhenren won? Yes, we won. We have won, and there is hope to recover Zenangwen. And there is hope to recover Zenangwen. Ha ha ha. I knew that Chen Zhenren would definitely win. In the temporary immortal mansion of the commander of the Zhenan army, all the cultivators gathered together. At this moment, the monks who can stand here are at least in the late period of Zifu. Of course, there are exceptions such as Chen Fuxing, who is only cultivated in the middle of Zifu. However, although Chen Fuxing's cultivation is not high, his strength is not inferior to Zhou Mubai. Chan Daoxian turned his palm to suppress Ji Suhui, which not only made Chan Daoxian famous in Wanxinghai, but also Chen Fuxing, a junior Jianxiu of the Chan family, also became famous in Songzhou. At this moment, all eyes were focused on the white figure in the main seat. Although Qi Yao was the head coach of the Zhenan army, with the power of this battle, Fairy Qi Yao refused to let Chen Daoxian sit under her no matter what, and insisted on letting Chan Daoxian sit on the main seat. The other Jindan real people, facing Fairy Qi Yao's humility, all showed the expressions they deserved. After all, the idea of respecting the strong in the immortal world is deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, and only the strongest can sit in a high position. The patriarch and the sect master, even if they are not the strongest in the clan and sect, are definitely among the best. Otherwise, as a leader of a force, his own strength is not strong, and he cannot suppress the situation at all. The reason why the Qianyuan sword sect could not be twisted into a single rope was also related to the fact that the sect master concubine Chan Shui did not have the strength to crush everything. If concubine Chen Shui was a primordial spirit Taoist, Yi Yin and other elders would not dare to waste a word in front of her. Now, although the head coach of Zhenan army is still Fairy Qi Yao, including Fairy Qi Yao herself, all eyes looking at Chan Daoxian at this moment reveal a sense of admiration. Everyone sit down. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Chan Daoxian waved his hand and said with an easygoing expression, "Thank you, real man." Everyone looked at each other in dismay, then cupped their hands and then took their seats. Seeing the crowd seated, Chan Daoxian said with a smile, "This time Zenangwen is guarded by the true monarch of the nascent soul period secretly, and I didn't expect it, but luckily the crisis is lifted, and it is imperative to recover Zenangwen." Hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with eager eyes. True monarch Yuanying was defeated by Chan Zhenren. How could the enemy army at this time be able to stop them from the South Army? Seeing that everyone was full of confidence, Chan Daoxian coughed and said, "Of course, although the enemy is gone, if we want to take Zenangwen, we have to take a long-term plan." Hearing this, Fairy Qi Yao, who was sitting on the lower left of Chan Daoxian, nodded and said, "What Dao Chan said is very true. Although Zenangwen's Yuanying Zhenjuan was removed, Zenangwen itself still has a sixth-order defense formation. The cultivator at the peak of Jindan sits in the town, but it is not easy to break." Hearing this, all the Jindan cultivators in the Immortal Mansion nodded. What Fairy Qi Yao said was exactly what they were worried about. A ninth-level Jindan cultivator relies on the benefits of the spiritual veins to preside over the sixth-level defense formation, which is indeed not so easy to break. This level of defense formation, even if Yuanying Zhenjuan came, would also have a deep headache. Seeing everyone frowning, Chan Daoxian continued, "You don't have to worry. The sixth-order defense formation hosted by the ninth-layer Jindan cultivator can only block the attack of one nascent soul true monarch at most. Even if there are many Jindan cultivators in Zenangwen to preside over the formation, we still have a war immortal boat that can be leveraged. In addition, my Jinan army sergeant can form an attack and I personally take action. It should be no problem to break this formation." When everyone heard that Chan Daoxian made his own move, they immediately remembered the existence in front of him who had defeated a true monarch nascent soul. Moreover, the Yuanying Zhenjuan defeated by Chan Daoxian was still a late Yuanying cultivator, and if he joined the attacking Zenangwen formation, breaking this formation was really just around the corner. Thinking of this, everyone's faces turned from cloudy to sunny. Aside, Fairy Qi Yao seemed to think of something, took out a jade bottle from the storage ring, and handed it to Chan Daoxian. Chan Daoxian took the jade bottle flying towards him, and looked at the other side suspiciously. Fairy Qi Yao saw the doubts in Chan Daoxian's eyes, and explained, "This is the 10,000-year bell spirit milk, which is given to me by the master to restore the mana before leaving, and please don't dislike it." Wanyan bell spirit milk? Chan Daoxian's eyes lit up when he heard the name. Different from the Huichi Dan and Huiyuan Dan used by low-level monks, the Wanyan Bell spiritual milk is a treasure that naturally restores mana. This treasure is divided into 3 grades according to the year: the 1,000-year stalactite, the 10,000-year stalwart, and the 100,000-year stalactite, which correspond to the monks of the Jindan period, the monks of the Yuanying period, and the monks of the Yuanshan period to quickly restore mana. You must know that in the process of fighting the law, the party with abundant mana can take a huge advantage in the deadlocked battle situation, which shows the preciousness of this treasure. Chan Daoxian took the jade bottle, thanked him, and put it in his storage ring. He was not pretentious. At this time, for everyone, the recovery of Zenangwen was the most important thing. And during the battle with true monarch Minghuang just now, his mana was depleted quite a bit. Not only did the mana in his own Dantian Qi deplete, but even the mana stored in the power spirit armor was not much. The star's kendo map is strong, but it cannot be used as a conventional method at all. This treasure consumes too much mana. If this true monarch Minghuang had a stronger physical body today, or had a 5th-order high-grade spirit armor to protect his body, Chan Daoxian might not necessarily be able to consume more energy than the other party. But the outcome of not being able to consume the opponent is that Chan Daoxian was defeated and fled. With the stars and kendo map, it was basically impossible for the opponent to kill Chan Daoxian. Not to mention true monarch Minghuang, even a top true monarch, if he is not good at space law, it is extremely difficult to kill Chan Daoxian. Xingqian kendo map suppressed, teleported to escape. Chan Daoxian basically fights if he wants to fight, and escapes if he wants to. Even if his current space law is not strong enough and the teleportation distance is limited, he still has the treasure of Michin Banner in his hand, and he can escape 10 times at the farthest. Thousands of miles away. For a distance of 100,000 miles, even the divine consciousness of the top nascent soul true monarch could not cover such a distance. In other words, the current Chen Daoxian already has the confidence to save his life in the hands of the top true monarchs. You must know that he is only a first-level Jindan cultivation base. The next day, with Wanyan Bel Lingru as the backing, Chen Daoxian, whose mana had completely recovered, stood in front of the Jinan Pass once again. This time he did not lure the enemy out of the border. Nonsense, true monarch Minghuang has fallen into his hands. At this moment, as long as Immortal Lingji is not stupid, it is absolutely impossible for him to go out of the border stupidly and die. For the enemy at Zenangwan, the only way is to stick to Zenangwan and wait for reinforcements. It's just that the monks in Zenangwan didn't know that the reinforcements they were waiting for might never come. Attack! High in the sky, Fairy Qi Yao was wearing a spirit armor and a red cloak, and with her beautiful face, the whole person looked heroic. Following this order, on a huge white immortal boat, the lines of the formation suddenly lit up. Immediately afterwards, the spiritual energy gathered by the formation patterns became more and more intense, and at the front of the immortal boat, a thunderball slowly condensed. Chen Daoxian looked at the immortal boat and silently calculated the time for its condensed attack. 30 full breaths. The power of the thunderball accumulated to the apex, and it exploded suddenly. Boom! The ferocious thunder beam bombarded the sixth-order defense formation in Zenangwan, and the ripples of the formation light curtain were constantly bombarded. I don't know if the attack of this war immortal boat was too fierce, or if the defense formation of Zenangwan was not as strong as everyone imagined. Chen Daoxian only felt that the formation light curtain in front of him had become weaker. How is this possible? Chen Daoxian's face was full of disbelief. Although the attack of this war immortal boat is strong according to his estimation at most, it is only between the attack strength of the monks in the early nascent soul and the middle nascent soul, and it is impossible to weaken the sixth-order defense formation of Zenangwan with a single blow. Unless Chen Daoxian thought of something, called out Chongying's sword directly, and slashed towards Zenangwan with one sword. Fairy Qi Yao also found out what was wrong with Zenangwan at this moment. Her beautiful eyes showed excitement and shouted, "Continue to attack, don't stop. Others follow me." The voice just fell. Fairy Qi Yao followed behind Chen Daoxian and attacked the defense formation at Zenangwan. More than 1 million cultivators from the Zhenan army attacked together, and the light curtain of the defense formation at Zenangwan only swayed and shattered like a bubble. Why is it so easy? It's too easy. How is this possible? I don't know. Chen Daoxian and other Jindan cultivators can't believe everything in front of them. This formation is too simple to crack, so simple that everyone can't believe it. You must know that this is a sixth-order defense formation. If the sixth-order defense formation is hosted by the true monarch Yuanying, it will be the attack of the top true monarch, and the opponent will not be afraid at all, which shows the horror of this formation. Qinyuan Sword Sex Protector Array, the Qinkuan Yinyang Locking Array, is essentially a giant array composed of sixth-order arrays. Although the defense of this formation is definitely stronger than that of the sixth-order formation in Zenangwan, it will never exceed the defensive limit of the sixth-order formation. This level of formation was actually broken by their Zhenan army in a single attack? It's hard to believe, but the truth is the truth. As the Zenangwan formation method was broken, the Zhenan army overwhelmingly killed the enemy in the Qingguan million-level monk battle. The entire battlefield can be described as dark. But the result was not a stalemate as Chen Daoxian expected, but a one-sided massacre. The reason is simple. On the Zhenan army side, there is Chen Daoxian, a strong man comparable to the late nascent soul plus 7 Jindan real people, and on the Xianqing Dao League side, only 5 Jindan real people are stationed in the city. Chen Daoxian didn't need to slaughter the low-level cultivators of the enemy army. He only needed the consciousness to cover the audience and remove the more difficult bones. For example, the enemy's Jindan real person, the genius Zifu cultivator with amazing combat power, and so on. His divine sense can easily cover more than 2,300 miles, and the entire Zenangwan Pass, including its 2 satellite cities, is shrouded in Chen Daoxian's divine sense. Where there is resistance, Chen Daoxian's flying sword will appear. The precise surgical strike shattered the enemy's heart of resistance in an instant. Once the psychological defense collapses, the next is a one-sided slaughter. The monks of the Xianqing Dao League scrambled for each other, for fear that they would fall behind their colleagues and be beheaded by the monks of the Zhenan army. This kind of situation of rushing to escape is 10%, even if the superior general shouts and kills the fleeing people, it cannot stop the collapse of the Xianqing Dao League. Not to mention that once Chan Daoxian found out about the generals in the enemy's army, he would greet him with flying swords and take the enemy's life. A slaughter-style battle went on for a whole day and night, and the shouting of killing gradually stopped. When the Zhenan army took over the defenses of Zhenan Xianqing and cleared away the scattered resistance monks in the city gate, Chan Daoxian, together with the top brass of Zhenan army, had already stood in the largest immortal palace in Zhenan Xianqing. This immortal palace was originally the practice place of true monarch Ming Huang. At this moment, it has become the temporary commanding camp of the Zhenan army. Inside Asgard, Chan Daoxian looked at the middle-stage Jindan cultivator with a rebellious face in front of him, and said in surprise, "You mean Master Ingir escaped yesterday while I was fighting true monarch Ming Huang?" Hearing this, the middle-stage Jindan cultivator looked even more angry, and shouted, "The Een vulture is greedy for life and fear of death. The sect master will not let him go. And you guys, don't be too happy too soon." Kneeling on the ground, he glanced at everyone and said coldly, "The Dao League will definitely avenge this blood revenge for us." This middle-stage Jindan cultivator is none other than Chan Daoxian, who was the first to fight with him when Chan Daoxian called the battle yesterday. "What is your name?" Chan Daoxian looked at him. This Jindan cultivator was reluctant to say any more, but when he met Chan Daoxian's eyes, he felt a sense of emptiness, and he muttered, "This is Yushuan. If you want to kill it, you must be slaughtered. It's a rather bookish name and the person is quite tough." Chan Daoxian nodded, turned his head to look at Fairy Qiyao and said, "Since this fellow Taoist requested so, then kill him?" "All right." Fairy Qiyao nodded, and immediately slashed with the sword, completely obliterating the body of this real Yu. When he died, this real Yu had his eyes wide open in disbelief. After a few breaths, Fairy Qiyao completely wiped out this real Yu Zenran's body in Jindan. Kill the last enemy real person in Zhenan Xianqing. The 5 Jindan cultivators in this city, for die in one escape. The Zhenan army side won a great victory. Not only a Jindan real person was not damaged, but even the cultivator of the Zifu period was damaged very little. Fairy Qiyao knew in her heart that Chan Daoxian was able to achieve such a brilliant victory this time. "Next, it's up to you." Chan Daoxian turned his head, just in time to touch Fairy Qiyao looking up at his beautiful eyes. Fairy Qiyao blushed and immediately said sternly, "Don't worry, the rest is to count the captives and harvest, and report the good news to the sect. I can handle it." When it comes to reporting the good news to the sect, not only Fairy Qiyao, but the rest of the fellow Jindan Real people are also smiling. In this battle to regain Zenangwan, although they did not contribute much, their credit is also indispensable. Not only that, compared with the reward of Qinyuan Jianzong after the recovery of Zenangwan, the harvest in this city gate is the real big deal. It must be clear that Zenangwan is a large immortal city with more than 1 million troops. How many logistics and shops should be served in this city for these sergeants? These are all shining spirit stones. Perhaps to the top true monarch who is bent on breaking through the Yuanshan stage, the spirit stone is nothing. But for them, the early and middle stage cultivators of Jindan, the wealth of a whole immortal city was enough to make them go crazy with excitement. 7017K. Chapter 326. In Asgard. Seeing that Zenangwan Xianqing was taken down, everyone was excited. The only middle-level Jindan cultivator stood up, first glanced at Chan Daoxian, and then cupped his hands to Fairy Qiyao. "Commander, this battle is a big victory. The next loot." Hearing this, Fairy Qiyao glanced at the crowd and said with a smile, "According to the rules of the sect, 30% of the spoils will be handed over, and the rest will belong to the soldiers who participated in the war." Hearing this promise, everyone's expressions became even more excited. Chan Daoxian is not very interested in these spoils. The Chun family's Guanhai Xianqing earns a lot of spiritual stones every day. With the cooperation between Guanhai Xianqing and Yuanshan Xianqing, The daily profit earned by the Chun family is increasing day by day, and until now even Chun Daoxian himself does not know how many spirit stones the Chun family can earn every day. Chun Daoxian was more interested in the storage ring from true monarch Minghuang than the loot seized in Zhenangguan Xiancheng. The storage ring of a late nascent soul cultivator may be sold as spirit stones, which is not as great as the harvest of Zhenangguan Xiancheng, but it must be some extremely precious treasures that are difficult to buy. Before, Chun Daoxian was thinking about breaking Zhenan Pass, but he didn't have time to count it. Now that Zhenan Pass has been taken down, he finally has time to check this storage ring. Thinking of this, Chun Daoxian said to everyone in the court, "The distribution of the spoils, you discuss the distribution, I have to retreat for a few days." Hearing that Chun Daoxian was going to retreat suddenly, Fairy Qiyao thought he was injured in the fight with true monarch Minghuang. Her pretty face tightened, and she stepped forward and said, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Chun Daoxian shook his head with a smile, then took out a storage ring. "Like you, I also deal with spoils." Seeing the storage ring on Chun Daoxian's finger, everyone reacted. Although their hearts are very hot, everyone knows that this storage ring left by the true monarch is not something they can get their hands on. No wonder Chun Zhen despised the seizure of Zhenangguan Xiancheng. People thought so. Chun Daoxian randomly found a quiet room in Asgard. Then he found a set of Tier 3 formation flags from the storage bag, and simply arranged a set of Tier 3 protection formations. Then he sat cross-legged on the futon with peace of mind and checked the storage ring. This storage ring was left by true monarch Minghuang. Although true monarch Minghuang's soul was much stronger than Chun Daoxian's, the imprint of his soul on this storage ring was stronger than that of Jindan cultivator. However, with the fall of true monarch Minghuang, the imprint of the soul on the storage ring has disappeared. Chun Daoxian only used his divine sense to wash away the imprint of the soul on the storage ring. Seeing that the imprint of the soul was removed, Chun Daoxian looked happy and immediately opened the storage ring. Compared with the storage ring he carried, the storage ring worn by true monarch Minghuang has a 3-point larger internal space. Of course, the size of the storage space was not the focus of Chun Daoxian's attention. What he is most concerned about is the treasure in the storage ring. Among the storage rings of true monarch Minghuang, they can be roughly divided into 4 types. The first type is the sundries that true monarch Minghuang uses in his daily practice in life. These things, after being swept by Chun Daoxian's consciousness, put them aside. The second is the spirit stone. Even nascent soul cultivators still have a place to spend spirit stones, so it is not surprising that the nascent soul cultivators store spirit stones in their storage rings. It's just, this spiritual stone is too many, isn't it? Chun Daoxian frowned. This storage ring is almost filled with spirit stones. At least 90% of the space is filled with spirit stones. He only scanned it roughly with his divine sense, and found that the storage ring contained at least 1 billion spiritual stones. Although these spirit stones are a considerable amount of wealth for the Yuanian cultivators, is Chun Daoxian someone who lacks spirit stones? Seeing that true monarch Minghuang's storage ring is full of spirit stones, it is impossible for Chun Daoxian not to be disappointed. But soon he adjusted his mood. Check out the third treasure, which is the magic weapon. This is Chun Daoxian's most important treasure. The fifth-order instruments used by Yuaning Zhenjuan are very precious. Usually, even if the monks have enough spirit stones, they may not be able to buy them. In Wanxinghai, there are only 2 sources of fifth-order magic tools. The first one is made by fifth-order artifact refiners. As far as Chun Daoxian knew, there were only 2 fifth-order item refiners in the entire Wanxinghai. One is true monarch Yuanchen, and the other is the master of the refining hall of Qianyuan sword sect, Huyanqi. And neither of these 2 is the master who lacks spirit stones. It is conceivable how difficult it is to ask them to help refine the fifth-order magic weapon. The ordinary Yuaning Zhenjuan really doesn't have such a big face. Even though Chun Daoxian had some friendship with these 2 people, he was embarrassed to only pay for spirit stones and let them help refine the fifth-order magic weapon. In addition to the fifth-order artifact refiner refining the fifth-order magic weapon, Yuaning Zhenjuan wants to obtain the fifth-order magic tool. There is only one way to promote it with the power of good fortune. This method is much more reliable than asking a fifth-order item refiner to do it, and every nascent soul cultivator can do it. But a treasure like the power of creation requires a lot of time and energy of the nascent soul cultivator to extract it from the spiritual stone. This is the reason why many nascent soul cultivators have no more than 2 fifth-order instruments on their bodies. Chan Daoxuan's Chang'ing sword can be promoted to the 5th rank middle grade. One is the purification of the power of creation, and the other is the improvement of his Dao realm, which has allowed the Chang'ing sword to be promoted. Found it! After doubling the search, Chen Daoxian finally found the Taoist magic tool used by true monarch Minghuang in the storage ring of Nodaxian Huangzhantian Tower. Strictly speaking, this is an earth attribute magic weapon, which is not only inconsistent with the Dao law understood by true monarch Minghuang, but also with the space law mastered by Chen Daoxian. The earth attribute is quite a match for Fuxing's thick earth sword intent. Chen Daoxian muttered a word and put away this treasure. Xianhuangzhentian Tower is still too high for Chen Fuxing. I am afraid that this magic weapon will drain his mana before he can activate it. Besides, this tower is a Taoist magic weapon, and its function is to increase the power of the Taoist realm. Chen Fuxing has not stepped into the Taoist realm at this moment, and he will not be able to use this treasure in a short time. Putting away the Xianhuangzhentian Tower, Chen Daoxian picked out 3 4th-order high-grade instruments. It's just that the 4th-order magic weapon has not been paid much attention by Chen Daoxian, and he just checked it a little and put it into his storage ring at will. After reading the magic weapon, Chen Daoxian focused his attention on the last treasure, the medicinal pill. The elixir of true monarch Minghuang is specially placed on a shelf in the storage ring. This shelf is very large. At first glance, it is full of jade bottles. It is simply estimated that there are at least hundreds of jade bottles on the shelf, and each jade bottle occupies a square of the shelf. Seeing these high-level medicinal herbs, Chen Daoxian became slightly interested. So far, the only treasure that Chen Daoxian found in the Minghuang Zhenjin storage ring was the only treasure of interest, which was the 5th-order high-grade Taoist magic weapon of Xianhuangzhantian Pagoda. Don't look at the fact that when true monarch Minghuang used Xianhuangzhantian Pagoda, it didn't play a big role, but that was because Chen Daoxuan's kendo map of stars was too strong. If it weren't for this, Chen Daoxian would be like a bug stuck by a spider's web with the tower's increase in the Dao domain, and it would be very reluctant to even cast escape light, let alone teleport. Right now, these high-level medicinal pills in the storage ring are the second thing Chen Daoxian is interested in. Like high-level instruments, it will become very difficult to buy medicine with spirit stones when it reaches the 4th or even 5th order. For example, the most famous Jijin Dan among the 4th-order medicinal pills. This kind of treasure that assists cultivators to form pills can't be bought with only spirit stones. Zhou Mingho, the head of the Zhou family in Songzhou, used the gold knot elixir that the Zhou family bought from a true emperor of Yuanying from the Qianyuan sword sect. As for the 5th-order medicinal pills that are of great use to true monarch nascent soul, it is even more difficult to buy them with spirit stones, unless it is the power of creation. Otherwise, ordinary true monarchs would not be willing to trade these precious treasures with spirit stones. Looking at the jade bottles on the shelf, Chen Daoxian eagerly checked them one by one. Chalcedony Dan, Zifu Dan, Jun Dan. A piece of spiritual pill above the 3rd rank was taken out from the forbidden jade bottle by Chen Daoxian, as if he had opened a treasure chest. Jing Jin Dan. Chen Daoxuan's face was overjoyed when he opened a 4th-order spirit pill to form a golden pill. The 4th-order spiritual elixir and the golden elixir, even for the Chen family, are quite precious treasures. After all, this thing can help the cultivator of Zifu to condense the golden elixir. Although the later golden elixir calamity still depends on the cultivator, this elixir can still increase the probability of the cultivator forming the elixir by 30%. For almost any Zifu cultivator, this thing is a treasure that determines the fate of the road. After all, in the world of immortality, there are very few cultivators like Chen Daoxian who have broken through to the golden elixir stage without using any medicinal pills. Open the treasure box and open a gold knot. Chen Daoxian was greatly encouraged, and he opened the treasure box even more excitedly. Soon Chen Daoxian took out the high-level elixir. 80% of these elixir were 3rd-order elixir, and the remaining 20% were 4th-order elixir. As for the 5th-order elixir, Chen Daoxian didn't find a single one. The 5th-order elixir is really precious. Chen Daoxian sighed while taking out the elixir from the jade bottle. Also, if there is a fifth-order elixir that is helpful to true monarch Minghuang, he has already taken it, and it will be placed on the shelf of the storage ring. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help feeling a little frustrated. Originally thinking about the storage ring of a late nascent soul cultivator, there were some treasures that surprised me, but I found out that the treasure of this true monarch Minghuang, not to mention the treasure possessed by Chen Daoxian, even compared with the treasure in the Chen family's library, it is far inferior. So poor, I'm so embarrassed to be called Xinjuan. Chen Daoxian complained. Although he complained in his heart, Chen Daoxian's unboxing action was not slow at all. Third-order elixir, third-order elixir, third-order elixir. As the third-order elixir was taken out, Chen Daoxian's excited and anticipating expression became Gujing Wubua again. Until pregnant baby Dan. A purple elixir the size of a glazed bead with a tire-like pattern appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. It was the treasure that helped the Jindan cultivator break through to the nascent soul stage, the pregnancy and infant pill. As soon as the pregnant and infant Dan came out of the jade bottle, he ran rampant and wanted to break through the air. But this quiet room, not only was he set up a third-order protective formation, but also shrouded in a space cage. The pregnant baby Dan hit the space barrier and was instantly bounced back. Chen Daoxian quickly raised his hand and put the restless pregnant and infant pill into his palm. The smile on his face could no longer be restrained. The pregnant baby pill, even for him, is of great use. Although with his current Dao realm, breaking through to the nascent soul stage in the future is almost a sure thing, but increasing the probability of breaking through the nascent soul stage is a good thing. He happily put the pregnant and infant pill into the storage ring, and Chen Daoxian's enthusiasm for unboxing suddenly became strong again. But then there are no surprises waiting for him. All of them are third-order or fourth-order elixir. Phew! The last one. Chen Daoxian casually opened the ban on the jade bottle, only to find out that the jade bottle contained no spiritual elixir. This is the power of creation? Chen Daoxian's eyes widened, and after a closer look, it was indeed the power of creation. He once traveled to the true immortal origin realm, and obtained 200 drops of the power of good fortune. The Yin sword in his hand was promoted to the 5th rank middle grade with the power of good fortune. Only now, the 200 drops of the power of creation have already been squandered by him. Although Chen Daoxian's strength is strong, the strength of his soul is not enough for him to extract the illusory power of creation in the spirit stone. In fact, even if Chen Daoxian could extract it, at the rate of 1 drop a year, he couldn't wait at all. Too slow. Chen Daoxian looked at the power of creation in the jade bottle, counted it carefully, and found that there were 67 drops. 67 drops. Isn't this what the true monarch Minghuang was sitting in Zenangwan, and he had nothing to do to extract it? Chen Daoxian muttered. Immediately, he thought that true monarch Minghuang's body protection spirit armor was only of the 5th rank middle grade, and he was more certain of this guess in his heart. Do you want to promote the spirit armor to the 5th rank top grade? Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but feel fortunate. Fortunately, the other party didn't have time to use these powers of fortune to advance to the spirit armor rank, otherwise the outcome of this battle between the two sides might have to be rewritten. After inventorying the storage ring of true monarch Minghuang, for Chen Daoxian, a total of 3 treasures can enter his eyes. The first is the Xianhuang Zhentian Pagoda, a 5th-order high-grade Taoist magic weapon. The second is the 5th-order high-grade spiritual pill, the pregnant and infant pill. The third item is 67 drops of the power of creation. These 3 treasures. Let's not talk about the pregnancy and baby pill for the time being. He will not be able to use these things for the time being. Xianhuang Zhentian Tower and the power of 67 drops of good fortune can quickly improve his strength. 67 drops of the power of creation, needless to say, whether it is to improve Siu sword intent or to improve the law of space, it can enhance his strength in a short time. As for the Xianhuang Town Tianta, it can also increase Chen Daoxian's strength. It seems that the Xianhuang Town Tianta seems to be in conflict with the Xingchen Kendo map. After all, the Xingchen Kendo map also has the effect of suppression, which overlaps somewhat with the function of the Xianhuang Town Tianta to increase the Taoism. But using the Stars Kendo map is too expensive for Chen Daoxian. In this battle with true monarch Minghuang, it seems that Chan Daoxian won very quickly, killing a true monarch nascent soul in half a cup of tea. But at the same time, his mana consumption has bottomed out. In other words, if true monarch Minghuang can hold on for half a cup of tea, Chan Daoxian will be the one who will lose. As for the Xianhuang Zhentian Pagoda, it is a low-end version of the star's kendo map, which is far inferior to the star's kendo map in terms of repressive power, but at the same time it consumes much less mana. Compared with the two, this tower is more suitable for use in conventional fighting. Chapter 327. Zhenan Xiancheng. 3 days have passed since the city gate was taken down. In the past 3 days, Zenangwan has gone from noisy to deadly. The once bustling Xianqing became extremely depressed due to the war between Qianyuan Jianzong and Xianqing Dao League. The shops on both sides of Xianqing Street were either smashed or the doors were closed, and there was no one at all. These shops were all opened by monks under the rule of the Xianqing Taoist Alliance. At this moment, the immortal city was destroyed. Although the fate of these monks would not be punishable by death, they would inevitably be taken away from their net worth. Some longer and beautiful female nuns will be kidnapped on the spot by the sergeant of the Zhenan army and used as a trophy. In this cruel world of immortality, the moral standard of monks is not as high as that of the civilized society of the previous life, and there is no saying that they must not slaughter civilians. Once one side is defeated, whether it is an army cultivator or an ordinary cultivator, the best outcome is to become a prisoner. More monks didn't even have the chance to become prisoners, and were directly killed on the spot. Just like the fate of those Cangzhou cultivators when Zenangwan fell, most of them were slaughtered, and only a few became prisoners. This little scene was nothing in the more than 400 years of the Azuma War. Asgard quiet interior. Chan Daoxian sat cross-legged on the futon, and everything that happened in Zhenan Xianqing seemed to have nothing to do with him. At this moment, he is paying full attention to the changes in the Dantian Qi Sea. To be precise, it is the change in the kendo map of stars and stars in the Sea of Qi in Dantian. On the stars kendo map, 2 stars, one large and one small, are embellished, which are the 2 stars formed after the realization of Chun Daoxuan's space law and the Siyu sword intent. Only now, the stars transformed by the Siyu sword intent are beating violently. This kind of beating is not because the Siyu sword intent is about to be promoted to the Siyu law, but an alternative transformation. If anyone who is proficient in the sword intent of the water movement sees this scene, they will find that Chen Daoxuan's sword intent of the rain is changing towards the sword intent of the water movement. Sword intent as a branch of water traveling sword intent. The potential of Siyu Jiani is limited, and it can only be promoted to the 6th level world realm at most. If you want to continue to be promoted, you must convert the Siyu sword intent to the Water Xing sword intent. But it is not a simple matter to transform from the branch sword intent to the complete water movement sword intent. Chan Daoxian belonged to a crooked road in the past, and now he wants to forcibly reverse it. The price he pays must be much more difficult than someone who has never set foot on the road of kendo. But fortunately, to understand the sword intent, the most important thing is comprehension. And what Chan Daoxian lacked the most was comprehension. In the sea of knowledge, the comprehension stars like giant celestial bodies slowly rotate, and as the comprehension stars rotate, traces of dust-like matter detach and disappear from the comprehension stars little by little. With the consumption of comprehension stars, Chan Daoxuan's comprehension also skyrocketed. Chan Daoxian found that since the Hongming Enlightenment Classic broke through to the 3rd layer, not only has a function of Dao extension, but also the function of enlightenment has changed again. On the 2nd level of the Hongming Enlightenment Classic, there is an additional preaching function, and the enlightenment function has changed from 10 times the original understanding to 30 times the understanding, a huge improvement. On the 3rd level of the Hongming Enlightenment Classic, Chen Daoxuan's enlightenment function is no longer limited to how many times his comprehension. He found that his comprehension can be adjusted and controlled at will. Theoretically, there is no upper limit to how many times you want to have comprehension. But as the comprehension multiplier increases, the consumption of comprehension stars will also increase sharply. Chan Daoxian has tried it, and once he uses more than 100 times his savvy, this savvy star with a diameter of hundreds of miles will be consumed at a terrifying speed. to consume 100 times of comprehension. He estimated that in 3 days at most, this comprehension star formed by absorbing a large amount of chaotic energy from the true immortal origin realm will be exhausted. And if the comprehension used is less than 100 times, the speed of consuming the comprehension stars will suddenly decrease, and there is no change at all. At the moment, Chen Daoxian doubled his comprehension, which just reached 101 times, because he found that when his comprehension exceeded 100 times, he seemed to have entered an indescribable special state. The barriers that were difficult to comprehend and understand in the past have become simple and easy to understand in an instant with the blessing of more than 100 times of comprehension. It's like his silk rain sword intent. As a branch of sword intent of water traveling, once a cultivator sets foot on sword intent of silk rain, and then wants to embark on sword intent of water traveling, the price to be paid will be too great. According to the records of the Qianyuan sword sect classics, if you want to switch from the branches of sword intent, such as Siyu sword intent, extreme cold sword intent, etc., to the path of water traveling sword intent, you need to comprehend several branches of sword intent, and comprehend them into extremely high realm. Then, on the basis of these several branches of water-moving sword intentions, we can only comprehend the water-moving sword intention by integrating them into one. This method, just by the sound of it, makes the scalp feel numb. Chen Daoxian also planned to use this method to reverse his Siyu sword intent, but after his comprehension exceeded 100 times, he found that he didn't need such trouble. He was able to peep through the silk rain sword intent of the Taoist realm, and peep a trace of the sword intent of the water in the same realm. For other cultivators it was like a fantasy, but for Chen Daoxian, who was now 100 times more savvy, it was as easy as he could. On the star's kendo map, with the violent beating of the stars transformed by the Siyu sword intent, the originally light blue Siyu sword intent stars finally transformed into a clear water blue. Water moves sword intent. It's done. In the quiet room, Chen Daoxian suddenly opened his eyes, his face full of surprise. In the sea of Dantian gas, the star kendo map covers the top. On the star map, a bright space star like a diamond version stands in the center, and next to the space star is a water blue water star. These two stars are not only transformed by the law of space and the sword intent of the water movement, but also transformed by the shadow-bearing sword and the flying snow sword. Seeing that Shui Xing's sword intent was completed, Chen Daoxian was overjoyed and spit out. He saw a water blue star spit out by him. As soon as the water blue star appeared, it turned into a light blue flying sword and slowly revolved around Chen Daoxian. Looking at the Feishue sword that had been with him at the beginning of his cultivation path, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but gently stroked its blade. After Feishuejin was integrated into Chen Daoxian's thoughts, his spirituality soared again. Even if Chen Daoxian did not take the initiative to control it with his thoughts, it could make the most suitable response to Chen Daoxian's thoughts according to Chen Daoxian's thoughts. The so-called heart-to-heart, but that's it. After appeasing Feishuejin, Chen Daoxian took out a jade bottle from the storage ring, which was the jade bottle containing 67 drops of the power of creation. To promote the Siyu sword intent to the Siyu law was Chen Daoxian's idea at the very beginning. But before the implementation, Chen Daoxian wondered if he could transform the Siyu sword intent into the water-traveling sword intent with a broader path and greater potential. If it were another cultivator, it would be even more difficult to comprehend the sword intent of water traveling if one wanted to reverse the sword intent of Siyu into sword intent of water in a short period of time. But with more than 100 times the blessing of comprehension, Chen Daoxian turned the impossible into a possibility. Of course, in addition to the blessing of 100-fold understanding, Chen Daoxian also repeatedly observed the changes in the laws of the giant axe when he unleashed his axe. Because among the laws that the opponent comprehends, there is the law of water movement. After many observations coupled with Chen Daoxian's peeping through the Siyu sword intent, a trace of the water-moving sword intent, and 2+ reflections, Chen Daoxian reversed the wrong road he had embarked on in one fell swoop. Right now, the sword intent of Waterxing has been completed, and Chen Daoxian can't wait any longer. He directly thinks about using the power of creation to forcibly promote the sword intent of Waterxing to the law of Waterxing, so that his own sword of Waterxing can also step into the law realm. The cultivator has to step into the realm of law to be considered a true monarch. Chuck! 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 The power of creation fell on the light blue flying snow sword drop by drop, and quickly merged into the sword body. With the integration of the power of creation, Chen Daoxuan's thoughts into it can clearly perceive that the flying snow sword is rapidly transforming. This transformation is different from the previous transformation of the Siyu sword intent into the water-traveling sword intent, but a transition to a higher degree. Chen Daoxuan's space sword intent has long stepped into the law realm, and he is familiar with this kind of transition. As time passed by little, the flying snow sword sometimes turns into a flying sword, and sometimes turns into a water blue star. The only thing that remains unchanged is its aura, which is getting stronger little by little. The volume after turning into a water blue star is also getting bigger a little bit. Boom! A roar exploded in Chen Daoxuan's sea of consciousness and air at the same time. He knew that this was the sound of the soul shaking. When the space sword intent stepped into the law realm, there was also this change. Sure enough, after this roar, the water blue stars in front of Chen Daoxian were dozens of times larger than at the beginning. Overjoyed, Chen Daoxian called out the star sword Dao map, and took back his water sword intent again. At this moment on the stars and stars kendo map, the water planets are about 1/3 the size of the stars in space, and compared to the previously insignificant scene, they are like the difference between clouds and mud. See, Chen Daoxian simply called out the law of space and the law of water movement one after another. As diamond-like space stars and water-blue water planets appeared in front of him, with a thought, the two stars turned into two flying swords. It is Chen Daoxuan's birth sword, Chungying sword and Feishua sword. With the fusion of these two flying swords with the law of space and the law of water movement, the sword bodies of the Chungying sword and the flying snow sword also began to undergo different changes. In the past, the body of the Feishua sword was silver-white, while the Chungying sword was silver-gray. But now the flying snow sword has turned into light blue, and the Chungying sword has turned into a transparent color like a diamond. Chen Daoxian knew that after the immortal sword was integrated into the law gradually changed the physical properties of the flying sword. The domineering of the stars kendo map lies in this. The relationship between the law and the immortal sword is mutual influence and mutual promotion. Since the two have merged into one, it has become this relationship. Even Chen Daoxian noticed that after the water movement sword intent was transformed into the water movement law, the star sword map began to strengthen again. The magnitude of this enhancement is not as strong as the transformation of the space sword intent into the space law, but it has at least increased by about a quarter. Sure enough, the more and stronger the laws of Xingqian Kendo diagram, the stronger it will continue to become. Diagram raising swords, sword raising diagrams, that's what it means, Chen Daoxian said silently. The next moment, he displayed the two-yield sword formation, and wanted to use the power of the formation to once again integrate the laws of space and water movement. Before, Chen Daoxian tried to fuse them with the sword array of two instruments after his mind was integrated into the Siyu sword intent and the law of space. However, the gap between the Siyu sword intent and the space law is too great. Even if there is a mind and two sword formations, and the two can be forcibly integrated into one, the increase that can be brought is extremely limited. Although Chen Daoxian didn't know how strong the high-level realm of the space law after comprehending the space strangulation, the two sword formations combine the space law and the silk rain sword intent, at most only increase the power of the middle space law by 30%. This increase does have a reputation for the fusion of negative laws and the soaring power. Among them, there is a reason why the degree of integration is not deep enough, but Chen Daoxian feels that the bigger factor is that the gap between silk rain sword intent and space law is too large. The two, one as bright as the scorching sun, and the other as small as a star, are not at the same level at all. Forcibly integrating them can increase their power by 30%, which is already a burning incense. This is also the reason why Chen Daoxian did not use the Liangyi sword formation immediately when he faced the enemy Minghuang Zhenjuan. The middle section of the law of space has increased its power by 30%, and it is still too far to compete with the monks in the late stage of nascent soul and the high section of the law of fire. Not to mention that true monarch Minghuang is physically strong, at least 2 realms higher than Chen Daoxuan's body refinement. Under various considerations, Chen Daoxian directly broke out his strongest trump card Xingqian Kendo map. It was this determination that saved his life. Otherwise, if he really uses the space law in the middle section of the law realm, plus the two sword formations formed by the combination of the Silk Rain sword intent in the high section of the Dao realm, he will fight against true monarch Minghuang recklessly. I am afraid that Chen Daoxian will be smashed into powder by the iron fist of Minghuang Xinjuan. Because the realm of Chen Daoxuan's avenue is not much worse than that of true monarch Minghuang, but the basic cultivation base of the two sides is too different, and being beaten to death with one punch is already a more euphemism. Quiet indoors. The law of space and the law of water movement, under the link of the two swords, gradually merge into one. The water-blue fairy sword and the transparent fairy sword are constantly rotating and fused, and the law of space and the law of water movement are madly entangled together. Chen Daoxian felt that, compared to the giant axe he saw in the true immortal origin realm, although his behavior of the fusion law was tricky, the effect was not bad. The only difference is that his formation power is not strong enough, and the number of laws in realm is not enough. The power of the formation is not strong, but his formation realm is limited, and the number and realm of the laws are not enough, which means that he has limited access to enlightenment. But these are things that can be improved in the future, and Chen Daoxian is not in a hurry. Is this the result of the fusion of the law of space and the law of water movement by the two sword formations? Looking at the two swords in front of them that were completely integrated into one, exuding a terrifying power, Chen Daoxuan's heart trembled. In front of him, this peculiar immortal sword was quietly suspended. On the immortal sword, two laws were entangled, fused, separated, and entangled, showing an extremely unstable state. Around the fairy sword, the space was like a rag, torn into pitch-black holes. You must know that the space in the quiet room at the moment is reinforced and suppressed by the star kendo map, and it is not comparable to the space that is not reinforced outside. Even so, the space was easily twisted to pieces. Seeing this scene, Chen Daoxian did not dare to continue trying, and quickly removed the bond of the power of the formation. With the withdrawal of the two swords, the law of space and the law of water movement are like two mutually exclusive magnets, directly separated. If this sword goes down, the original true monarch Minghuang can't bear it, right? Chen Daoxian stroked the two blue and transparent fairy swords and muttered, 7017K. Chapter 328. Squeak. Push open the door of the quiet room and withdraw the protective formation. The dazzling sunlight shone on Chen Daoxuan's handsome face, causing him to narrow his eyes slightly. With his consciousness swept away, Chen Daoxian discerned the direction. His figure blurred for a while, and instantly disappeared in place. Inside a hall, one Xinghai cultivator gathered together with a serious look. In the main hall, not only the 7 Jindan real people with the highest cultivation level are present, but also the actual power generals in the various armies are also present. Suddenly, Chen Daoxuan's figure appeared in the hall, causing a whole exclamation. Chen Zhenren! Chen Zhenren is here! As soon as Chen Daoxian appeared, the greetings came one after another, showing how high his status was in the minds of the Jinan army cultivators. Fairy Qiyao, who was sitting on the main seat, saw Chen Daoxian and immediately stood up. Her pretty face was full of surprise. Fellow Daoist Chen, you're out of the border. Chen Daoxian bowed his hands to everyone with a smile, and finally fixed his eyes on Fairy Qiyao, and said with a smile, I just came out of the customs, and I met you guys discussing matters. What happened in the past few days? Hearing this, Fairy Qiyao's smile on her pretty face subsided. She nodded solemnly and said, something really happened? Oh. Chen Daoxian raised his brows slightly. It is thousands of miles away from Zenangguan, Qingwei Taoist sect. It is different from Qinyuan Jianzong's sect standing on the island, surrounded by large and small defensive formations built by cave worlds. The sects of the Qingwei Taoist sect stand among the continuous mountains. Overlooking from a high altitude, the sect of the Qingwei Taoist sect is surrounded by 9 immortal veins. After hundreds of thousands of years of blessings from the ancestors of the past dynasties, countless immortal veins have been arranged by the monks of the Qingwei Taoist sect. Defense formation. In terms of defensive power, the defensive formation of the Qingwei Taoist faction is only above the Qianyuan Sword sect's guardian formation. Qingwei Taoism, On a vast immortal pond like the sea, one after another silhouette sitting in the misty water vapor. If you look closely, you will find that the power emanating from these figures has all reached the nascent soul stage. Boom! A monstrous wave surged out from the depths of the fairy pond. A man wearing a silver-white Taoist robe with a somewhat feminine face suddenly opened his eyes. As the feminine man opened his eyes, the rest of the crowd were alarmed, and one after another, Yuan-ing level consciousness came over. Metropolitan. The feminine man raised his head, looked in the direction of Izumo, and frowned. Scarlet Jiaozhen is dead. What? Impossible. True monarch Qijiao is the top true monarch. Who could kill him? Could it be that primordial spirit Dao Jun took action? All of a sudden, the people guarding Tai Immortal Pond opened their eyes one after another and couldn't sit still any longer. True monarch Scarlet Flood Dragon is one of the top true monarchs in the Qingwei Taoist faction, ranking very high in strength. Compared to Ming Huang and his likes, true monarch Scarlet Flood Dragon is much stronger. Now everyone suddenly heard that true monarch Scarlet Flood had fallen. No less than Qianyuan Jianzong had fallen to a powerhouse at the level of a palace master. How could the sect not be shaken? This is a big event that affects the foundation of the sect. Seeing everyone's questioning, the feminine man's face was even more ugly, and he said solemnly, "It was Linwu Zhenjuan and Qianyuan Jianzong Shadow Hall's hall master who took action personally. Linwu Zhenjuan personally led the army to attack the Scarlet Flood Dragon Immortal City. Mean. The shameless special of Qianyuan Jianzong. The two beasts, Lin Wu and the palace master of the Shadow Palace." For a time, the many nascent soul true monarchs on the Tai Immortal Pond were filled with righteous indignation. Although most people were very angry when they heard the news, there were also calm people who frowned and thought, "Sect Master, Linwu Zhenjuan has been stationed in Linwu Xianqing for hundreds of years, and he has always confronted my Xianqing Dao League, and has never attacked in a big way. Will they suddenly attack so aggressively?" The gentle-tempered Qingwei Taoist sect master pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "Elder Yun's consideration is reasonable. Although Qianyuan Jianzong and my Xianqing Taoist League have been fighting for hundreds of years, the Yuanying level war has never broken out for a few years. The field, let alone the top true monarch himself. The news of Tai Shenshui in our sect must have been leaked." This. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what to do. The meaning of the Qingwei Taoist sect master is very clear. There are ghosts in the sect, and they are among the people present. These words undoubtedly made everyone look at each other's eyes with a slight change. At this time a late nascent soul cultivator stood up and cupped his hands. "Sect master, everyone. Now is not the time to look for spies from the sect. The Scarlet Flood Immortal City is the biggest gate built by my Xianqing Dao Alliance in Izumo. Once the Crimson Flood Immortal City is destroyed, the Qianyuan Sword Sect's army can freely attack the small immortal cities stationed by my Qingwei Taoist faction." Elder He is right. The most important thing right now is to block true monarch Linwu. Just as everyone was arguing, another message came over. Seeing this, everyone turned their attention to the sect master of Qingwei Taoism. The gentle-faced Qingwei Taoist sect master took out the communication jade talisman in front of everyone. But then his complexion became ashen. Metropolitan. Seeing the face of their sect master, everyone had a bad premonition in their hearts. Zenangwan was broken, and true monarch Minghuang died in battle. Within a day, the news of the death of the two true monarchs was sent back to the sect, causing the entire Qingwei Taoist sect to be enveloped in a slaughter. Next moment, the sect master of the Qingwei Taoist sect stood up directly and ordered, "Pass my decree order. All the nascent soul true sovereigns in the sect gather here, and rush out to the great immortal cities of the Cloud Country." Hearing this order, almost all true monarch nascent soul bowed their hands solemnly, abide by the decree of the sect master. After a stick of incense, one after another escaping light, or driving a spirit boat or alone, flew out of the Qingwei Taoist defense formation, and flew in the direction of Izumo. With the help of Yuanying Zhenjuan left. The Yuanying Zhenjuan who stayed above the Tai Immortal Pond suddenly decreased by 90%. Metropolitan. The elder Yun surnamed Yun glanced at the sect master of Qingwei Taoism, bowed slightly, and said hesitantly, "Could this be Qianyuan Jianzong's plan to move tigers away from mountains?" The sect master of the Qingwei Taoist sect nodded. Elder Yun's concerns, this seat has also thought about it, but the immortal city of the Izumo country must not be lost. He turned to look at the Elder Yun. Although Tai Shunshui has the effect of helping Yuanning cultivators to break through the Yuanshan stage, it is not absolute. If my Qingwei Taoist sect puts all bets on this treasure. Once Izumo was lost, Qianyuan Jianzong invaded our homeland, and I failed to break through the Yuanshan stage. Have you ever thought about the situation of my Qingwei Taoist school? This. Elder Yun frowned, and after a while, he nodded. The sect master is thinking about it. But the old man is worried that Qianyuan Jianzong will send someone to raid my sect? Assault! The sect master of the Qingwei Taoist sect suddenly showed a confident look on his face, and said with a smile, "I really hope that Qianyuan Jianzong will really dare to send someone to take the opportunity to attack us." Heard. Elder Yun glanced at the unfathomable sect master, and immediately stopped talking. In any case, even if the Qingwei Taoist faction sent nearly 100 Yuanning true monarchs, there are still more than 10 Yuanning true monarchs in the sect at this moment guarding the Tai Immortal Pond, including the suzerain himself. Coupled with the Qingwei Taoist sect's guardian formation, Qianyuan Jianzong wants to send people to attack. At least dozens of Yuanning Zhenjuan must be sent to attack together, and there is a glimmer of hope to break through the Qingwei Taoist sect. And now, how could the Qianyuan sword sect still have dozens of Yuanning-level combat power? The Xianqing Dao League did not dare to say that they knew all the information about the true Emperor Yuanning of the Qianyuan sword sect, but they knew the approximate number. Don't look at the more than 100 Yuanning Zhenjuan in Qianyuan Jianzong. But at the same time, the territory of Qianyuan sword sect is also very vast. One Xinghai has to leave a part of Yuanning Zhenjuan to guard, and the real Demon World Channel also needs to leave Yuanning Zhenjuan to guard. And at this moment, the Qianyuan sword sect attacked Izumo with all their strength, and most of their nascent soul's combat power was probably transferred to the front line of Izumo. In addition, the sect of Qianyuan Jianzong always has to leave a few Yuanning monks to guard. After all, how could Qianyuan Jianzong still draw dozens of Yuanning monks to attack the Qingwei Taoist faction? And sending a few nascent soul true monarchs here, even if they are top true monarchs, is no different from sending them to death, and the Qingwei Taoist faction is naturally not afraid. Not to mention that the sect master of the Qingwei Taoist sect is astonishingly powerful. With him sitting in the sect, he can protect the sect and Tai Shunshui. Having said that, the sect master of the Qingwei Taoist sect still ordered, "Elder He, subordinates are here. Let your people check carefully the movements of all the Yuanning monks in Qianyuan Jianzong in the near future." This, subordinates obey. The elder surnamed He bowed to his orders. Seeing that Elder He was about to leave, the sect master of the Qingwei Taoist sect said again, "Also, remember to let your people bring some trouble to the base camp of Qianyuan sword sect." Elder He touched the eyes of the sect master in front of him. His heart trembled and immediately nodded. "Yes, sect master." Zenangwen. Inside the hall, after Chen Daoxian listened to Fairy Qi Yao's narration, a storm surged in his heart. "You mean Qianyuan Jianzong attacked Izumo in an all-round way?" Fairy Qi Yao nodded. "Not only that, Linwu Zhenjuan has already captured Qijiao Xiancheng." Hearing this news, Chen Daoxian was shocked. Scarlet Flood Immortal City, but the immortal city where Scarlet Flood Immortal Lord sits, as the top true monarch of the Xianqing Dao League. The status of Scarlet Flood Dragon True Monarch is like the master of the 7 halls of Qianyuan sword sect. A true monarch of this level has actually fallen. Although Chen Daoxian didn't know how Qianyuan Jianzong did it, it was clear that Qianyuan Jianzong was determined to attack Izumo with all his strength. As for the purpose of Qianyuan Jianzong doing this, everyone present was unclear, but Chen Daoxian had a vague guess. Probably, to create opportunities for the Lord of Zhenhai Palace. However, with the power of the Zhenhai Palace Hall Master alone, can he break through the Qingwei Taoist sect with a large number of nascent soul true monarchs in charge? No matter how you look at it, it's a bit like courting death. However, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think that once the Tai Shunshui was conceived, a Yuanshan Daojun was born in the Xianqing Dao League, and the Qianyuan sword sect was also a dead end. The difference between early death and late death. It is no wonder that Qinyuan Jianzong is desperate. Is sect master concubine so confident in the strength of palace master Qin? Chen Daoxian said secretly. Immediately, his heart sank. No, Qinyuan Jianzong must not fall, at least not now. As a traveler, Chen Daoxian's loyalty to Qinyuan Jianzong is almost zero. But the Chen family took root in Wuxia after all. Once the war broke out in Wuxia, the Chen family would definitely not be able to survive alone. Thinking of his record in retaking Zhenangguan this time, the Qingwei Taoist faction must have regarded him as a thorn in the flesh. Once Qinyuan Jianzong fell, the first unlucky one would be his Chen family. On this point, Chen Daoxian was very clear. He didn't expect him to kill a late nascent soul monk of the Qingwei Taoist sect, and the two sides could still shake hands and make peace. The only way at the moment is to help the hall master of Zhenhai Palace to successfully raid the Qingwei Taoist sect. This is not only for Uncle 13 but also for the Chen family. Once Wan Xinghai falls, the fate of the Chen family will not be much better. Thinking of this, the relaxed mood after recovering Zhenangguan became heavy again. Not only Chen Daoxian but everyone in the hall, all looked heavy. War always makes people feel heavy, but the war between Qinyuan Jianzong and Xianqing Dao League is no longer able to stop it. The two sides have been fighting for thousands of years, and they have already forged a feud. Unless the other side completely falls, this feud will never be eliminated. Everyone. Chen Daoxian spoke suddenly. When everyone saw the big man talking, they all turned their attention to him. Although Zhenangguan was taken down, but now that Wan Xinghai is attacking Izumo on all fronts, our Zhenan army naturally can't stick to this city. Hearing this, Fairy Qiyao on the side was anxious, and she immediately transmitted a voice. Fellow Daoist Chen, Shizuan only asks us to stick to this city and not enter it rashly. Fairy, and rest assured. Chen Daoxian replied with a sound transmission, and continued, therefore, I suggest that I go to the enemy-occupied area to inquire about the news. Young patriarch can't do it. The rest did not speak, and Chen Fuxing immediately stood up to object. Chen Zhenjin think twice. Yeah, by winning Zhenangguan our strategic goal has been achieved, and there is no need for real people to rush in. Everyone was discouraged. Fairy Qiyao looked at Chen Daoxian with complicated eyes and was deeply moved. Qinyuan Jianzong's full-scale attack on Izumo is undoubtedly a bet on the luck of the sect. Once this battle is lost, Qinyuan Jianzong will not recover, but it will definitely go downhill. As the young sect master of Qinyuan Sword Sect, how could he not be moved to see an outsider like Chen Daoxian working so hard for Qinyuan Sword Sect? Not to mention Chen Daoxian an outsider, he is a disciple of Qinyuan Jianzong's main sect, and there are several people who can achieve the level of Chen Daoxian when they are in a crisis of life and death. Thinking of this, Fairy Qiyao could hardly restrain her affection for Chen Daoxian in her heart. She hurriedly stepped forward and said, Chen Daoxian, I'll go with you. This time he directly addressed Chen Daoxian's name instead of Chen Daoyu. Chen Daoxian did not notice this slight change, turned his head to look at Fairy Qiyao, and said with a smile, I understand the kindness of the young sect master, but I will go to investigate alone, which is more flexible. Hearing this, Fairy Qiyao immediately heard Chen Daoxian's implication. Also, Chen Daoxian is extremely powerful. Although he has only Jindan cultivation base, his strength is comparable to that of true monarch Yuan Ying. With her strength, even if she follows Chen Daoxian, it is just a burden. Thinking of this, Fairy Qiyao no longer insisted, nodded and said, then, you should be careful in everything. Chen Daoxian nodded, then glanced at everyone, and disappeared in the hall with a flash. The law of space reaches the middle of the law realm and understands space teleportation. As long as Chen Daoxian does not die and falls into the formation arranged in advance by the enemy, even if several top true monarchs join forces, it will be difficult to win him. Seeing that the situation was not good, Chen Daoxian teleported, and then waved Mi Chen's flag, and immediately fled more than 100,000 miles away. No matter which top true monarch saw it, he would have a headache. Chapter 329. Chen Daoxian's figure appeared again. It is already in front of Jushua Xianqing in the southeast of Zhenangguan. Jushua Xianqing, also known as Jushua Pass, is an immortal pass 30,000 miles away from Jinan Pass. This immortal city was built by the Xianqing Dao League, and it is the front line of the Xianqing Dao League's defense of Wangxinghai. After crossing this immortal city, you have completely entered the area actually controlled by the Xianqing Taoist League. Today's Izumo Kingdom is divided into two by the defense line created by the Qianyuan Sword Sect and the Xianqing Taoist League. Half are under the control of Qianyuan Jianzong, and the other half are actually occupied by Xianqing Dao League. But whether it is Xianyang sect or Qingwei Taoism, the country where their sect is located is not in Izumo, but somewhere else. Standing thousands of miles away from Wuxia Pass, Chen Daoxuan's spiritual sense swept across the towering city walls of Xianqing. Wuxia Xianqing was just like its name, a city wrapped in silver. This immortal city is located on an ice-attribute spiritual vein, which is shrouded in ice and snow all year round. Although he did not enter this immortal city, Chen Daoxian still felt the aura of several nascent soul monks in this immortal city thousands of miles away. It's just that compared to Zenangwen's true monarch Minghuang, the cultivation of these three nascent soul cultivators is not high, and the one with the highest cultivation is only in the middle nascent soul. Of course, Chen Daoxian would not judge a cultivator's strength based on his cultivation. After thinking about it, he did not enter Juxiguan rashly, but disappeared in place in an instant. Inside the snow pass, the middle nascent soul cultivator with the highest cultivation base suddenly opened his eyes, and his consciousness swept across the entire immortal city. Who is spying on Zhu Xueqing? He raised his head and looked in the direction of Zenangwen. Is that you? Chen Daoxian. The news of Chen Daoxian beheading true monarch Minghuang has spread in the Xianqing Dao League in just a few days. The news that an early Jindan cultivator beheaded the late nascent soul true monarch is too exciting. In just a few days it has become well known in the circle of Yuanying monks of the Xianqing Dao League. True monarch Minghuang is not a weak Yuanying cultivator, but a real late Yuanying cultivator. Although true monarch Minghuang may not be as powerful as a top true monarch, his strength is definitely more than 90% of nascent soul monks. It is such an existence that still falls into the hands of Chen Daoxian. Now there are rumors among the Yuanying monks of the Xianqing Dao League that this real Jindan named Chen Daoxian may have surpassed the so-called invincible real man. From ancient times to the present, I have never heard of such a fierce Jindan cultivator. Chen Daoxuan's figure reappeared, and he had already crossed the Wuxia Pass thousands of miles away, and had completely entered the area of the Xianqing Dao League. When he arrived at the enemy's territory, Chen Daoxian no longer teleported in a grand manner, but used the breath-holding technique to restrain his own breath. I saw that his breath had decayed all the way from the early stage of Jindan. Late period of Zifu, middle period of Zifu, early period of Zifuk. The aura he exposed to the outside world lasted until the middle stage of foundation building before it stopped. Cultivation in the middle stage of foundation building. This cultivation is very common in the world of immortals, and it will not be disturbed by some unsightly scorns. It's just right. Chen Daoxian secretly said. Immediately, he controlled his facial skeletal muscles and moved quickly. About 10 interest. Chen Daoxuan's face has changed into another look, and even his height has been raised by 3 points. Appearance, body shape, breath all changed. Now, even if Chen Fuxing stood in front of him, he would not dare to recognize this person as his own young patriarch. Of course, although Chen Daoxian is proficient in the breath-holding technique, a cultivator with a stronger soul than him can still find flaws when he approaches. Therefore, Chen Daoxian had better stay away from true monarch Yuanying. However, Yuanying Zhenjuan is not a Chinese cabbage. Although there are hundreds of Yuanying Zhenjuan of Xianqing Dao League, but they are scattered in the country of Izumo and their sects, there are not so many Yuanying cultivators. In the major immortal cities of Izumo, and in the larger immortal cities, true monarch nascent soul is in charge. In an ordinary immortal city, at most there are only a few Jindan cultivators. Yuanying cultivator Chen Daoxian did not dare to say it, but Jindan cultivator, no matter how many he came, would only serve food in front of him. I have to say that Chen Daoxian, a cultivator with amazing strength, is shameless. Going to the hinterland of the Xianqing Dao League to destroy it will definitely involve the Xianqing Dao League's great energy. There are fewer Yuanying cultivators sent to encircle and suppress him, That is to say, if there are more people sent, Chen Daoxian will run again. Chen Daoxian felt a headache when he thought about it himself, let alone Xianqing Dao League. Now the Xianqing Dao League still doesn't know that such a troublesome existence has been mixed into its own hinterland. When it comes to going to the enemy's hinterland alone to make a riot, Chen Daoxian is not inexperienced. When he single-handedly killed the real demon in the Great Yuan Demon Kingdom of the Real Demon Realm, he provoked the Yuanying monks to chase and kill him. It's just that at that time his cultivation base and strength were too weak, and he only did it once and he never dared to send his real body there again. Although the forces he faces now are much stronger than the Great Yuan Demon Nation, his own strength is many times stronger than that at that time. Chen Daoxian has only two purposes for this trip. First, create chaos. Second, enhance strength. If you want to achieve these two goals, hunting down the single nascent soul true monarch is the best choice. Of course, the Yuanying cultivator is not a Chinese cabbage. Although Chen Daoxian's strength is strong, he does not know the strength and trump card of the Yuanying Jinjuan he is facing. If you rashly attack an unfamiliar Yuanying Jinjuan, it is very likely that the boat will capsize in the gutter. Therefore, he must investigate the information of this true monarch nascent soul as much as possible before he starts. On the one hand, it is to inquire about the strength of this true monarch nascent soul, and on the other hand, it is to investigate whether the pockets of this true monarch nascent soul are bulging. Don't look at the strength of Minghuang Zhenjuan, but he is really not rich among the monks of the same level. The three most valuable things in the opponent's body are only a 5th-order high-grade magic weapon, 67 drops of the power of good fortune, and a pregnancy and baby pill. With this wealth, Chen Daoxian doubts whether he has been robbed before, which is completely inconsistent with the identity of the late Yuanying monk of Minghuang Zhenjuan. The next days, Chen Daoxian began to move in the direction of the Qingwei Dao School, using the light of escape little by little. Along the way, he met a lot of other monks, but most of them were qi refining monks. After all, in the world of immortals, qi refining monks were the most numerous. Those cultivators in the qi refining stage saw his escape, and they all avoided it, for fear of making the seniors unhappy. As for the base-building cultivators with the same cultivation, none of them took the initiative to approach Chen Daoxian. Seeing this, Chen Daoxian nodded in satisfaction. It seems that controlling the cultivation base in the middle stage of foundation building is a correct decision, Chen Daoxian secretly said. Along the way, Chen Daoxian inquired many times, and finally selected the first target person. The first target he chose was a mid-Yuanying monk named Jin Yuan Jinjuan. The reason why Chen Daoxian chose him as his first target was that this true monarch Jin Yuan was not high in cultivation, only in the middle stage of nascent soul, and on the other hand he was rich enough. Jin Yuan Jinjuan is a logistics supervisor in charge of the frontline resources of the Xianqing Dao League. Jin Yuan Xianqing. Although this immortal city is large, it is responsible for all the resource supply of the 4 immortal cities on the front line of the Xianqing Dao League. And Jin Yuan Jinjuan, as the only ruler of Jin Yuan Xianqing, can imagine how much he has secretly earned over the years. Jin Yuan Zhenjuan is a member of the Xianyang sect. Although the Xianqing Taoist alliance is like a family, it is still different from the Qingwei Taoist sect. After so many years, Jin Yuan Zhenjuan has been secretly in the resources of the Qingwei Taoist sect. Extract oil and water. The target has been found, and the next step is how to approach the target. As a cultivator in the Yuanying period, Jin Yuan Zhenjuan was not an easy task to get close to him, and this matter had to be planned. Chen Daoxian thought to himself, Jin Yuan Immortal City, as the immortal city where Yuanying Jinjuan sits, governs an area of more than 100,000 miles. Within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles, countless family cultivators and loose cultivators all rely on Jinjuan Jinyuan's breath. Coupled with the fact that Jinjuan Jinyuan is in charge of the allocation of frontline resources, the number of people who ask him to do things is like a crucian carp crossing the river. The Shen family was an inconspicuous foundation-building family within the jurisdiction of Jin Yuan Xianqing. It is said that the Shen family is inconspicuous, but it is relatively high-level cultivator. In fact, the Shen family is very famous among the foundation-building family because the Shen family is good at alchemy, and it is the most famous alchemy family in the vicinity. This day, Less than 100 miles away from the Shun family's residence, two escaping lights galloped away one after the other. Ahead, a middle-aged Jindan real person was furious. As the man ran, he said eagerly, "I don't know each other at all, so why do you have to push each other so hard? Humph! Hand over the pregnant baby pill, and it'll spare your life." The black-robed cultivator behind him had a loud voice, and he didn't mean to hide it at all. The golden core cultivator in front was simply furious. "I don't know what your friend is talking about." Still stubborn, Chan Daoxian raised his brows, the escape light suddenly accelerated, and a flash of sword light quickly drowned the Jindan Zhenren in front of him. "Do not." The golden core cultivator had a look of despair in his eyes and left with hatred. Until he died, he didn't know why he was being targeted by this unfamiliar monk of the same rank, and he didn't even know the reason for the pregnant and infant pill that the other party kept talking about. After killing this Real Jindan, Chan Daoxian directly grabbed the other's body, and after some investigation, his face suddenly turned ashen. Why not? Do you think that if you hide the pregnant and infant pill, this seat will not be able to find it? Chan Daoxian used the spirit fire secret technique with a look of resentment, and burned the corpse of the Jindan real person in front of him. Before leaving, he glanced coldly at a group of people dozens of miles away, then turned into a flash of light and disappeared in place. Dozens of miles away. The Shun clan leader brought a group of elders and juniors in the clan, and was almost frightened by Chan Daoxian's glance before he left. A long time, the head of the Shun family came back to his senses, and he immediately instructed everyone in the family, "Quick, go and have a look." Yes, high-level cultivator's fighting method does not rule out that there will be leftovers that will be discarded by the opponent at will. There are not many people who have the same idea as the Shun family leader. The distance of dozens of miles can be reached in the blink of an eye with the escape of a cultivator in the foundation building stage. There are many others who have the same idea as the Shun family and all of them are foundation establishment cultivators. That is to say, the battle between the two Jindan real people broke out too fast, otherwise there will be a Zifu cultivator who will come to pick up the leak. When the cultivators met, they didn't say hello to each other. They all used their spiritual senses to carefully search for the path that the two Jindan real people flew through when they were fighting. Shun Gabai's divine sense swept across an object, and immediately became as clever as drinking ice water in a hot summer day. Storage ring. Shun Gabai's heart thumped. As a descendant of the Shun family, he knew very well that the storage ring, a high-level storage magic weapon, could only be equipped by cultivators above the Zifu period. So, Shun Guibai swallowed fiercely, and immediately put away the storage ring calmly. Shun Guibai thought that no one saw this action, but in fact, this action of his had already fallen into the eyes of the Shun clan chief, Shun Maoqing. After some searching, everyone naturally found nothing. The cultivators looked at each other. Those who knew each other handed each other's hands, and those who didn't know each other disappeared in a flash. Jindan cultivator fights, and one died. This matter will definitely cause a lot of waves in the vicinity of Jinyuan Xiancheng. The Shun clan chief, Shun Maoqing, also returned to the clan with a group of people. The Shun clan land is located above a second-order spiritual vein. As a long-established alchemy family, the Shun family has more than one spiritual vein, but the spiritual vein of the clan is of the best quality. Usually, the clan chief and the more qualified clan members in the family cultivate here. Returning to the clan, Shun Maoqing immediately started the defensive formation. "Patriarch, are you?" One of the family elders did not know why. The other elders also looked at Shun Maoqing in surprise, as if waiting for an explanation from the other party. Shun Maoqing did not reply but looked at Shun Guibai in the crowd. Seeing Shun Maoqing looking at him, Shun Gabai's face suddenly turned pale. "Clan, Patriarch." Shun Guibai lowered his head, not daring to look at Shun Maoqing. "Take it out." Shun Maoqing stretched out his hand. Hearing this, Shun Gabai's heart was beating like a drum, and his breath was like an ox. "After a long time, I was very reluctant to take out a storage ring from my arms." "Storage ring? Guibai, where did you get this thing? Could it just be?" Suddenly, some clan elders guessed the origin of this thing, and Shun Guibai lowered his head and said nothing. Shen Maoqing waved his sleeves, took the storage ring from Shen Gubai's hand, and sighed. Do you know how much disaster it will bring to the family if you hide this thing? Clan. Patriarch, I was wrong. Shen Guobai lowered his head and said in despair. Get up. Shen Maoqing shook his head, then looked at the elders. Elders, although this thing has fallen into the hands of my Shen family, it is unpredictable. When everyone heard Shen Maoqing's words, they all nodded seriously. They are not the treasures that Shen Guobai is so stunned, and the Jindan cultivators are fighting for their lives. How can they be involved? In particular, they faintly heard that the treasure that the other party was fighting for was a treasure like the pregnancy and infant pill, which made them feel hotter. At this time, a foundation-building elder stood up from the crowd and cupped his hands. Patriarch, the only solution for now is to dedicate this treasure to the Jin family. Good. What the fifth man said makes sense. This treasure is indeed out of our hands. Everyone agreed. Seeing this, Shen Maoqing nodded and said, That's all there is to it. Since the fifth elder suggested it, then it's up to you to do it, and you must contact the Jin family as soon as possible. Remember, it's better. Let me personally dedicate this treasure to the head of the Kim family. Hearing this, the fifth elder hesitated for a moment, but nodded and said, Yes, Patriarch. Go. Shen Maoqing waved his hand. Everyone handed in their hands and left, and before leaving, they dragged the lost Shen Guobai to leave together. Seeing everyone walking away, Shen Maoqing immediately closed the cave formation. Walking into the depths of the cave, I saw a Shen family head who looked exactly like him, lying in a coma on the bed, surrounded by a small formation around the jade bed. From the outside, the jade bed was empty. In front of the jade bed, a black-robed cultivator is guarding here, the one who chased and killed Jindan cultivator before. The black-robed clone saw Chun Daoxian, turned into a black light, and got into Chun Daoxuan's Dantian Qi Si, and entered Chun Daoxuan's Dantian Qi Si with him, and there was a water-blue fairy sword. It is by virtue of this flying snow sword that the black-robe clone can be cultivated in the Zifu period, and behead the Jindan real person in reverse. Otherwise, just relying on Chen Daoxuan's black robe avatar is not necessarily an opponent of Jindan cultivator. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.